Hey guys, how you doing? This week is when my teaching English as a second language course really started picking up. Doing observations, doing practicums now. It won't be too much longer until that's what I'll be doing for a living. Yeah, life is bumping along over on this end. I'm sort of coasting on by. I would like to do a bit of a shout out to everybody. I did say this in the Discord, but it's worth saying live on stream. I ran into like a little financial bump because landlords are douchebags. I don't like landlords. Boo landlords. And it was the people who donate to this stream who really were, their donations were the reason I was able to just kind of smooth all that out and everything was completely fine. I feel like I'm like, Austin, good to see you. It feels like I've been like shot out of a cannon and right now I'm just sort of sailing to a new destination, but I'm like in midair right now and I'm looking down and there's no net and everything is like, and the new location is like soft landing, like it's not going to be a hard landing, but it's like if one thing goes wrong, right? Like if something comes from the side and just sort of goes like boing, it feels like I'm going to just hit the rocks. But so far so good. We'll see what life has in store for me. Peanut Butter Beatrice, good to see you. Good evening to you. Yeah, boo landlords. First time commenter over on Twitch, Sad Sapphic. Great comment. Boo landlords. Boo them. They are bad. For those of you who are unaware of what is on the screen right now, there's a beautiful moment, which has led to like a beautiful meme. A school held a anti-ICE rally, and all the students showed up. And in the midst of that was one teenage boy who was holding up a sign in support of ICE and was actively antagonizing the kids. And a young fellow approaches this kid, and of course the kid is filming, right? Because he's that type of kid. Total douchebag. And he basically says to the kid, "I'm going to punch you." And the kid says, "Well, you're going to get in trouble." To which the other kid says, "Okay." And then winds up and slugs him. It is your civic duty to punch Nazis. And if you think otherwise, then you are a Nazi. Just black and white. We can just be black and white about this. Right? Like, your grandparents literally killed Nazis. Literally went overseas and opened fire on Nazis. All of your heroes throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s killed Nazis. Indiana Jones killed Nazis. For some reason, it's become kind of passé or controversial to say that we should kill Nazis. We should continue to. I don't know at what point are we suddenly supposed to be like, no, we should definitely allow Nazis into our society and have civil conversations with Nazis. Like, when did that become a thing? Like, when did it become the people who are standing up saying, yeah, we should defeat Nazis? When did that become worse than Nazism itself? When is that a thing? But welcome to post-Epstein land. Welcome to your Epstein reality. Welcome to what it means to be living in a society ruled by insane psychopathic pedophiles. Who knew that listening to the philosophies of child rapists would have a negative effect on the society? Roots and Bark. I don't know if I've ever seen you here before, Roots and Bark. Good to see you. Yeah, we already did, and more importantly, incorporated them into the government and academia. That's right. Yeah, post-World War II. And instead of doing what we should have done, which is root out the Nazism and absolutely destroy it, no, instead we decided to integrate the Nazis into our civil courts and society and our government system, and give them control of enormous amounts of resources, and just sort of like forget. Just sort of be like, oh yeah, you know? Like, nobody seems to know or recognize or pay any attention to the fact that, like, literal Nazis used to be, like, the head secretary or the chair of NATO. You're just like, we're just supposed to ignore it. We're just supposed to pay no attention to that. But, I mean, paying no attention to material reality is essentially what we do here. Like, it's become almost a trope that, like, history memes and, like, history subreddits will spread around all the Nazi propaganda and in regards to the Soviet Union, and no one will actually point out that, like, yeah, but they were fighting Nazis, right? Like, they were literally fighting Nazis. Nope. Whenever we watch horror movies, we're only supposed to pay attention to what the people who are being hunted down are screaming about. We're not supposed to pay any attention to, like, Jason Voorhees or any of that. It's essentially what it's like talking politics with these people. It's like they're watching a movie, being like, it's like they're watching the movie Scream, and they're like, what's that woman screaming about? Oh, she's just a crazy woman. Crazy woman. And then they just ignore the knife-wielding maniac, right? Person walking around stabbing people, and we just ignore that person. They don't exist. So all of our critiques are for the woman screaming. It's like, just a hysterical woman, right? That's what it's like. But I mean, what do you expect when you have a huge segment of the population that's like, Donald Trump's an American hero. He went to Epstein's Island to out the whole thing. That's why he was at Epstein's Island 50,000 times, right? That's why he's been mentioned 100 million times. Speaking of Epstein's Island, here's a piece of news that no Canadian outlet is actually talking about. From the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Galen Weston Jr. has been named in the Epstein files. Here's the exact quote. This is from. Hold on. Let me be real specific. So much redactions, right? So much redactions. This is from somebody who says that I have been trafficked to Epstein. There is a slave document attaining to this files from the Duke of York in 2018. So this is like a testimony. He became a controller and sexually abused me. He was friends with Andrew, the Duke of York, who did the same thing. There were many others who did the same. I am tired of the fear. I was approached by MI5 to carry a phone to access a conversation between Epstein and I. I believe either Primark or Galen Weston Jr. touted the information around. So, hey, a Canadian billionaire who happens to own, like, a huge part of our food distribution network, who is like single-handedly responsible for jacking prices up on everybody, has been named in the Epstein files, and there isn't a single media outlet that I've seen that's like, hey, maybe we should do an investigation on that. Maybe we should take a look at Galen Weston Jr. and be like, hey, Galen Weston Jr., what do you know about Jeffrey Epstein? What do you know about all this? Hey, where were you, between this period of time? What can you tell us? No, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna pay any attention whatsoever to the fact that a Canadian billionaire who happens to own a food distribution network, who's also jacking all our prices, we're just not gonna. Oh, okay, yeah. This is a democracy. We're a serious people, for sure. It's that unseriousness that gets me, man. Freestyle, good to see you. Subscribe, baby, good to see you too. It's the unseriousness of our countries that really gets me. You know, it's just how like overtly, like, they might as well treat us like cattle, right? They might as well, right? Like, they talk about us as if we're cattle. I see no reason why they shouldn't. Like, they literally release documents saying that they rape our children, and we're just like, oh, well, off to work. Okay. Like, I don't know, dude. Like, how do we engage with this in a meaningful way? How do we engage with any of this in a way that is serious at all, right? And like, they're literally passing legislation to destroy our healthcare system here in Canada. They're literally doing everything they can to make every aspect of your life worse on purpose. And we're all just like, well, gotta keep voting for them. Well, we're normal. Freestyle rights. Hey, just came back from your lovely country. Toronto was beautiful. I know Canada has its issues, but it's a very nice escape from reality here in the States. Yeah, I mean, Canada's a little bit behind in regards to its decline, right? Like, its decline is happening. But I actually think the only reason why Canada is a little bit slower in its decline is because it has a smaller population, with a winter that sort of forces us to slow down. There's this sense in Canada that, yeah, like, even though the pedophilic rapists and the psychopath class want to pull out a whip and whip us and make us work as hard as possible, winter is winter, baby. Like, you can't. Like, you can only trudge through the snow so quickly. You can only keep establishments open for so much. And, like, it's not even profitable to keep places open sometimes because nobody comes out in the winter. So everything just slows down by the force of the winter. And that gives Canadians an opportunity to actually, like, spend a little bit of time talking to one another and being like, hey, what do you think about everything that's going on? And what the heck is happening? And so because there's less of us, because it's a smaller population, you need to have less of those conversations. And then, you know, that reflects in the political system. Whereas in America, there's 10 times the amount of you. And there are sections of America where it's just like go, 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 go all the time. Whip, 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 whip all the time. And it's going to collapse. It's just going to totally collapse. Like, my dad, who is like dyed-in-the-wool, God-fearing Christian man, he went down to Branson, Missouri very recently. And for those of you who don't know, Branson, Missouri is like a mecca of country gospel and Christian gospel. Like, if you are into country gospel or Christian gospel at all, you want to go down to Branson, Missouri. And they have theaters, there's all kinds of stuff. And he's gone down there several times. And he came back and he told me that there's just nobody there. Like, just nobody there. And he went into detail, but the end result is, yeah, like, nobody's going to America, nobody's going to these tourist outposts, and nobody in America can afford to do so. So the whole thing is coming off the rails, and it's going to come to an end, and the psychopath class knows it. Like, they're aware of it. It's not like they're stupidly going along being like dorbity door. They understand that they are purposefully collapsing the American economy, extracting what little wealth remains and what little value they can get, and then they're just going to fuck off and abandon everybody into their gated palaces, where they'll have like a small group of slaves or robots to just do everything they need. And like, don't be shocked at all if what happens inside of these enclaves, which is what they'll become, is just some of the worst, like, monarchical behavior you've ever seen. Like, somebody breaks a law and they'll just execute them, kind of shit. Like, there's not going to be any oversight whatsoever, because that's their whole philosophy. They've been telling us for decades that any oversight whatsoever is overreach. If you expect, if you pass laws and expect those laws to be followed, you're authoritarian, right? These guys actively say that anybody looking into their affairs is tyrannical, as they go off to Jeffrey Epstein's pedophile island and rape children and then kill them and eat them. Like, yeah, we definitely shouldn't be paying any attention to these guys. We definitely shouldn't have any kind of oversight. We definitely shouldn't look into these organizations and begin to ask ourselves, like, hey, is it a good idea to allow people to have $1 billion, do you think? Do you think it's a good idea that we do that? You think it's a good idea? And more people are starting to say, yeah, no, it's a terrible idea. But it's too late. They've already taken everything over. Who could have seen it coming? Who could have foreseen that if you give a person $1 billion, they'll just take everything over? Oh, wow. Peanut Butter Beatrice. My high school church youth group traveled there. Those were the days. Yep, Branson, Missouri. Yeah, back when there was like a little bit of money. Back when there was a little bit of wealth. Back when people could actually afford to have, like, you know, a field trip. Now everything is just like, it's just collapsing, and nobody gives a shit. Like, nobody gives a shit. Like, it's here in Ontario. Like, Doug Ford is literally passing legislation to defund students. Just straight up saying less people will be able to go to school, less people will be able to do anything. And when he's asked about it, he outright says people need to take classes that aren't like basket weaving, right? And which is rich coming from an uneducated Luddite like Doug Ford, right? Somebody who is straight up just a silver spoon Nepo baby who's never really worked a job in his life, right? Just straight up dealing drugs on the street and living off of his dad's sticker factory money, essentially. And so we're looking at a situation here in Ontario where we're just stupider. We're just going to have a stupider population full of stupider people who actually are going to stand up and be like, oh yeah, we gotta make sure that we kill the humanities and make sure that nobody actually thinks ever, but we sure know how to put wires together. Duke of Bread writes Sticker Factory. That's embarrassing for some reason. Oh, there's a reason. Like, one of the things that you can credit Doug Ford for is that he's a sloganeer. He knows how to, because his voters are, supporters of the Epstein class, the stupidest, most illiterate, most psychotic people in the society, who only care about the value of their own house and their own pocketbook. And they have no conception or care to have a conception about the idea of a society or a collective good. They genuinely do not care about anything except themselves, because those are the people who vote for him, about 30% of the society. All you have to do to rally them is just have a clever slogan, right? Or not even clever. Just have a slogan that is like, oh, like Doug Ford's slogans are like for the people and Ontario open for business, right? But it like cuts through the kind of noise of what's going on in the society and just gives, very dumb, selfish, narcissistic pedophiles something to grab hold of, so that they can be like, yeah, I'm a person, I'm for the people, right? Doug Ford keeps talking about the little guy. when all Doug Ford has ever done is hand money to big corporations and do as much damage as he possibly could and can to, quote unquote, the little guy. And it's like, I mean, if you don't perceive the people around you as human, then you can just believe that you're the little guy. Peanut Butter Beatrice, basket weaving may be a very practical skill in the foreseeable future. I mean, it's just going to get silly. I mean, it's already silly. Like, we're already past the point of no return in regards to how stupid we look as a people. We just can't. I don't think we can look stupider. I think that this is as stupid as we can look. It's only going to be cruelty from here, right? That we're obviously morons. We keep voting for morons who are obvious morons. And now it's just going to be a series of like, okay, well, how pedophilic, how psychopathic, like how dark and sinister are these people? And that's really where it's going to go from here. And the answer to that is like, there's no bottom. Like, there's genuinely no bottom to it. Like, things are getting genuinely demonic. Like, things are getting to a point now where it's like, oh, these people are actually demons. Like if it was uncovered that in 1984, or let's say like 1972 or something, that a portal opened up to hell. And instead of like the legions of hell like pouring in and just taking over, they knew that they needed to like infiltrate our societies in order to like twist and distort everything so that they could make the place more suitable for the legions of hell, right? Like imps and balrogs and this, they can't survive in our atmosphere, so we need to make it more sulfuric, right? Like we need the billionaires keep pitching the idea of like spreading sulfur into the atmosphere to dim the sun in order to reflect its rays away for climate change reasons, right? They keep pitching that idea, and every time they pitch it, I'm like, oh yeah, you're just seeding this place so that the balrogs and the devils and the imps can actually survive in this plane of existence, right? That's what you're doing. And if that came out, like if it straight up was like huge expose, big explosion, and like, oh God, we've actually discovered there's this portal and it leads to, and they probably report it like aliens, right? They probably wouldn't immediately go to like demons, but it's like, yeah, and then they describe the demons, and the demons are literally like the devil, like straight up like with the horns and the goat hooves and the whole thing, and we're all just like, oh, okay, so this is a hell dimension that they're at. Yeah, they breathe sulfur. Like, if that was all discovered, I'd be like, yeah. I would, no pushback. I wouldn't even be like, what? Can you believe that at this stage? Nah, these people are eating children. Like, these people are eating children. And everything that they do at this stage in the game, like everything that they do at this stage in the game, should have us all immediately going, okay, so how are they using this to kidnap our children? Like, that's the first place we should go every single time, no matter what they do, right? If a person with $1 billion stands up and begins speaking, our first instinct right out the gate is, how are they trying to kidnap our children with this? And why is that? Because they're doing it. They're openly doing it. Like, we have millions and millions and millions and millions of documents of them doing it. And like, why are we pretending otherwise? Why are we pausing and actually being like, oh, we should give these guys the benefit of the doubt? No, we shouldn't. We should eliminate them as a class from our society completely. Like, completely. Like, no one should have even close to $1 billion. No one should have any amount of that wealth. We should make it extremely difficult for a single person to have more than 2 properties, let alone own the food distribution network. Like, we're such a fallen, ridiculous, clownish people. Duke of Bread says, yeah, this is why capitalist democracy can't work. People need to be educated into a system that is functional and divorced from capital. Yeah. Like, capitalist democracy it's an oxymoron. It's a contradiction. Like, you can't the very definition of the existence of a capitalist implies that it's anti-democratic by its just very nature. Like, one guy owns all of the property and everybody else works for that guy. Yeah, you have a democracy, for sure. Yeah, that doesn't sound like an imbalanced power relationship whatsoever. Hey, Dave, how are you? Radio, how are you, my man? XD writes, meanwhile, Chinese Canadians are overwhelmingly conservative supporters / voters. Yeah, I mean, it comes down to the hyper individualism. That's really what it comes down to. Like, if you believe that you are the author of your own fate and that everything that happens in your life is a byproduct of your own choices, which is an extremely embarrassing and extremely arrogant position to hold, then you're a conservative. Like, it's the belief system of a child. And there's just a shocking amount of people who believe this and who think this way. It's just hyper individualism. And all of the evidence shows you pretty cleanly and clearly that it's false. Like, literally everything. And there's no evidence to support the idea that what happens in your life is primarily because of your own decisions and a force of your own decision. Like, sure, you are part of the equation in the same way that a single grain of sand is part of a beach. But to pretend as though you're responsible for the tides and you're responsible for, like, every single grain of sand and the way the wind blows, like, it's cartoonish. But, I mean, that's where we're at. No, Root, you deleted it. You deleted it. It was going to be good, too, I could tell. It had the word genocide in it. Peanut Butter Beatrice, yeah. Establish a maximum wage or something. I mean, look, do you have any idea how many problems would be immediately solved if the tax rate on earnings over $1 million was 100%? And, like, if wealth holdings was taxed at over $1 million was taxed at 100%? Do you have any idea how many problems would immediately be solved? Like, I have an article right here that's straight up. Like, the middle class was built because there was a tax rate on millionaires, let alone billionaires, on millionaires of over of up to 95%. Like, don't allow these people to exist. Like, don't allow these people to exist. Straight up, full stop. What's so shocking is that when it comes to, like, a king, right, a monarchy, everybody understands. There's, like, a very, very small segment of the population who is still arguing for monarchical power. And everybody else is like, yeah, it's just a bad idea to allow a single individual to have that kind of power. It's not stopping them. Here in Canada, by the way, the Liberals are trying to push through Bill C-15. And what it does is it allows the Liberals to basically just exempt corporations and individuals from most Canadian laws. The Budget Implementation Omnibus Bill includes a clause that could allow ministers to unilaterally exempt corporations. So essentially, it's a law that allows a minister to just say, yeah, that law doesn't apply to you specifically. Like, the attempt to pass this bill alone should remove these liberals from power. Like, full stop. No, you can't pass a law that says we can exempt people from laws. You psychos. Like, what's the point of laws, you psychos? You obviously pro-pedophilic, narcissistic psychopaths who should not have any power whatsoever. Like, it's wild to me that anybody is still supporting these guys. But, you know, when you live in a pro-pedophile society like we do. Duke writes, individualism is the ideology of predators because accountability comes from the community and evil lives in the dark. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I mean, and they've been open, right? Like, now that the whole Epstein thing is, like, out in the open and obvious for anyone to see, the entire philosophical narrative of the last 40 years has been revealed to be psychopathic. Like, listen to Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan. Like, listen to these people talk about their philosophy of the world, and then understand that the end of that road is raping and eating children. And it is. Like, 1 + 1 = 2. And, like, you listen to these people talk, and you're like, oh, like, they've been open. They've been really open about how bleak and psychopathic they are. Like, they've really been open, and it appeals to other, like, Nazis and hoodlums and just lunatics that live in the society. And of course, like, these are Harvard graduates, and this is what Harvard produces, right? This is what we institutionally create in this society. XD writes, is silly as fuck for Chinese, though, because we're the ones preaching about the importance of education more than anyone else. And yet we support a guy defunding public schools. We're clowns. It is a bit silly, isn't it? Like, I can't imagine actually attempting to justify, like, defunding schools. Like, while simultaneously, obviously taking that money and just shoving it into your own pockets. Like, Pookie writes, social democrats want to lift people into capitalism and not take down the system. Yeah, fascism wants to lift people into a national-based system against the current one. I wouldn't describe fascism lifting anybody into any system. Like, the fascists clearly are just pro-slavery. Like, it's nakedly. Like, they think that people are subhuman. No, like, and you can see that with what's going on in the United States. Like, the United States is eating itself. It's destroying itself on ideological lines, and it's going to lead to disaster after disaster after disaster after disaster, because the philosophy and the ideology that's taken hold in the United States is inherently inhuman. Right? It's demon shit. It's demons attempting to rule through force, and with this inhuman belief that there is a hierarchy and all of it. Like, humanity is a force of nature in and of itself. It's why the humanities are so important to study. It's why we need to have the humanities taught to people, because humanity is a force unto itself, and it absolutely deserves our attention and our study. That if you don't pay attention to it, and if you don't study it, and if you don't actually know anything about the force of nature that is humanity, and you pretend as though humans are just individuals individualizing their individualism in an individual world, like you're a baby, then you're going to lead... then you're going to create institutions that are just going to get blown away. Like, these institutions are going to be destroyed. They're going to be destroyed by the force of humanity, because humanity is a force unto itself. And they might stand for a minute, right? Like, if an organization like, let's say, the CIA, right? Like if the CIA lasts 3 generations, that's pretty big accomplishment, right? Like you take a look at something like the Catholic Church. And if the Catholic Church lasts another 500 years, let's say, that's pretty like 2,500 years. Like that's a really, really big institutional achievement. Like that's defining. That's an era defining institution. But there's absolutely no fucking way that in another 2,000 years the Catholic Church will be a thing. Like, nope. There's a 0% chance that happens. And why? Because the force of humanity will eventually blow it away. Right? Just like we blew away the temples to Jupiter. Like just like we blew away like the old money lenders and the old banking systems of the past. Like, and we will. And we'll do it simply by the passage of time and by the passage of humanity, and simply by no longer engaging meaningfully in these institutions and no longer believing that they have any credibility. And it won't be too much longer until we view them with open hostility. So they can't survive. And that's what makes these fascists so dim-witted. That instead of creating institutions that facilitate the passage, that facilitate humanity, and that actually encourage human growth and actually encourage the natural passing of humanity, they're doing everything they can to alienate themselves from humanity and make it more difficult to be a human. They're going to lose. Like, they're going to lose, and they're going to lose big time. And it's just getting more and more obvious and more apparent and more clear that that's the case. And it's going to be the societies that figure it out faster, that figure out how to allow humans to operate on this plane of reality without impediment, that are going to see growth and see an explosion of activity and an explosion of action. Like, no one wants to go to the States right now. No one wants to, like, live in the West right now. We look like fucking clowns. Because we are. Like, we're as clownish as we get. Cotton, good to see you. Roots and Bark writes, my initial comment was that I find it hard to be surprised by the revelations of the Epstein files because of multiple genocides committed by the same elite in my lifetime. Yeah, I think the big difference there, Roots and Bark, is that most Americans and most Westerners generally view the genocides and the wars that they commit as a positive, right? That it's that they're better off for us intervening. That's the prevailing philosophy of the West. Is the places we invade are better off for it, And this is like straight up a defense that the Bush administration used for its invasion of Iraq. And it's what white Westerners have always said. When they were committing the genocide against the First Nations people, that's what they said. That the people we're committing this genocide against are better off for us doing it. And you'll have people, like, I've lost friends because they outright said to me that, like, oh, like, these guys just live in mud huts, like, they're better off for us showing up and getting in there. And it's like, oh, okay, like, you're just a dark, bleak, narcissistic, psychopathic Nazi, like, if that's what you believe. And that concept and that idea has become embedded in the mind of white Westerners, right? White Westerners genuinely believe that if they show up in someone else's house, murder their family, steal all their resources, blow up their house, that person is better off because I'm a white Westerner and I know better. I know more than this guy, right? And how do I know that this kind of mindset has infected the mind of white Westerners? Because leftists think this way too, right? Leftists absolutely think that they know better than brown and yellow people who live in their own country, right? Just talk to your average, like, Marxist, Leninist, or Trotskyist about China. And you're going to talk to a Western chauvinist, like, right away. You're going to talk to somebody who's like, I know more than the people who are actually running the communist country. This is how that country should be run. Right? There's just no sense of humility. There's no sense that, like, maybe we should actually pay attention to what these guys are doing. Like, you can't hand them anything. Right? Why? Because they're not a white Westerner. And you are. And that's really what it boils down to. It's like embedded in the ethos of the white Westerner. And so that's how we perceive our genocides. That's how we perceive our wars. That we are spreading good into the world. And you got to break a few eggs, right? Those eggs being brown people and people of color. And who gives a fuck about them, right? They're inferior subspecies anyway. And even if you're like, no, we're all equal, as a white Westerner, you probably believe that you're a little bit more equal than them. The Epstein files are a deviation, right? They're a little different because it's kids. And not only is it kids, it's our kids, right? Like that to me is where Epstein and his crew went really wrong. That if they were doing this to like some, kids from Cambodia or something, white Westerners wouldn't give a fuck. They'd just be like, yeah. It's the fact that it's our kids, right? It's the fact that it's white kids. Like you take a look at some of these pictures that are coming out of these hearings. And it's all white women that are standing behind Pam Bondi, right? Like the hearing there, the victims are like white women and white men who are like from like Missouri and like California. And to me, that's really where Epstein and his crew really went wrong. But I don't think they would have been satisfied with, like a sex slave from Myanmar. Like I think that the fact that they were white is part of it. And so that's the reason why it's, I think, being taken as seriously as it is, because it's our children. It's us. The West has been consistent with its depravity. This it's not new. Like, to say that what's going on with Epstein is new is too far. But it's like, it wasn't that long ago that Nixon resigned over a wiretapping scandal, right? Like, Bill Clinton faced impeachment because an intern gave him a blowjob, right? Like, those are what the scandals used to look like within living memory. Now we're looking at like a lawless cabal of sadistic billionaires who straight up have an island where they rape children. Like, that's a new level, man. Like, that's a new thing. Like it anytime any boomer wants to tell me how good we've got it, I'm just gonna laugh in their faces and be like, nah, you weren't dealing with this shit, bro. Like, you weren't dealing with this level. And how does this happen? It happens because you let the worst people in the society have access to an enormous amount of wealth. Like, it's so weird that the pro-capitalist crowd hold the position that humanity is this like dark, bleak force, but then they'll say nothing should be done of it. Like, oh, you're just crazy then. The true democratic North. Yeah, the USA is eating its own arm and shooting itself in the foot. Yeah, I don't like you listen to like Marco Rubio's recent speech, and it's like really clear that they're just going full Nazi. They're just going full blown Nazi. Like, if I was a Chinese citizen and I heard the comments that Marco Rubio was saying, I'd be like, oh yeah, like, we've got to defend ourselves from these guys. These guys are psychos. And it's all going to collapse down around them because nobody's going to deal with them anymore. Like, you can't isolate yourself like this and expect to continue growing or continue even being stable. It's just Like, the United States is setting itself up for a real wild decade. It's going to be a real wild time. Fully weaponized chuds. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Like, it's great too. Like, it's so amazing that these guys are as stupid as they are. Pookie writes, fascists are extreme nationalists, and ANCAP want total decentralization. Our laws are more progressive than our people are in reality. Well, I mean, the whole purpose of law, like the idea of law, is an acknowledgement that humans are inherently emotional. We can make decisions based on like knee-jerk reaction. And so we need systems where we can have sober discussion and intentionally slow things down. That's why I'm very skeptical of these conservatives, these pedophilic narcissists who say like we need efficiency. No, we don't. The entire reason we have our electoral system and the entire reason we have our system of laws is to intentionally slow you pedophiles down. Is to intentionally make these psychopaths have to wade through a bunch of regulation. That's the entire purpose of it, is to make it so that they can't just pour glass into your cereal and like have that be a thing. Maybe we should have a guy in there being like, hey, are you putting glass in the cereal? Like, but if you're, you know, if you're a child rapist and you don't give a shit, you know, make the lemonade half piss. Who cares, right? And so the entire purpose of the legal system is to slow everything down, is to make people have to wade through regulation on purpose. And that's why they don't like it. You know, why would a pedophile want somebody looking over their shoulder? Freestyle Skate says, serious shit, I'm the world and I'm the world and I'm stuck doing my bullshit job. I'm so very close to just getting up and walking out of my job. I've had enough. In the world, yeah. Yeah, no, I feel you. Like, I think everybody should. I think everybody should walk out of these jobs. Like for real. Like, we should just walk out of these jobs. And I mean, of course, we should walk out of these jobs and gather en masse and surround these people's homes. Like, we know where Mar-a-Lago is. Like, we know where these places are. Like, I don't care if they have, like, huge gated community. If there's 100,000 people camped outside their door, it's going to be a problem, right? Content writes, Jesus Christ, the SAVE Act is very close to passing the Senate. Talk about functionally torpedoing the entire electoral voting process in the USA. Turns the whole thing into a poll tax. Yeah, no, they're trying to destroy themselves. Duke says, I think it's pretty crazy to say Chinese or Soviets were not real socialists or whatever. You can criticize people without calling millions of people liars. It's like a conspiracy theory. I mean, I understand why capitalists say it. Like, I understand why, like, the capitalists don't want you to ever look at the Chinese or the Soviets and draw any conclusions. But why would somebody who actually considers themselves a Marxist ever say that? Right? Like, of course they're not immediately, instantly a utopian communist society, right? Like, of course they're not. Of course they're following a process, because they have to. Material reality exists. But you'll find enormous amounts of institutions and organizations that claim to be Marxist, that heavily criticize the Soviet Union and the Chinese. And it's like, I just don't think you should. I think that we should look at these places and learn something from them. And like, especially like the Soviet Union's a good example. Like, why would you ever think that the very first attempt at something would be successful? Can you point to a time in human history where that's ever been the case? Like, can you point to a time in human history where the very first time anybody did anything, it was 100% completely, totally slam dunk successful? And so to like completely reject the project and say that it was a total failure and therefore you can get nothing out of it, and then even to go so far to demonize the people who ran the project. Like, what are we, babies? Like, how do you expect to learn anything? How do you expect to know anything about what's going on? And like we're in a lot of trouble here in the West. We're in a lot of trouble because the people who claim to be the revolutionaries, the people who claim to be on the left of the political spectrum, are just helping the capitalists dig the grave for the society. Freestyle writes, just like Vietnam, the reason Americans aren't so outraged about Palestine is because, unlike Vietnam, American soldiers aren't dying. Yeah, I mean, that counts. America entering the century of humiliation. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's going to get really, really wacky and really wild. Like, I'm totally here for it. Like, I am. I'm completely here for it. Like, you guys are blowing yourself up. Like, you're blowing yourself up, and you've been blowing yourself up for a long time. Like, a long time. And most people have just been living in total denial about it. It's just been like when I look back on my life and I look back on the things that I've seen about what the society is doing and all of this, I'm like, it's cartoonish now. Like, it's comical. And I take a look at people who are in like a tizzy about it or in a panic. And I just can't take it seriously anymore. Like, what did you guys expect? What did you think was going to happen? It's like I've been watching a little kid take a fork and try to put it in a light socket. And I've been like, stop it. And I like turned to their parents and been like, going to electrocute himself. That's 100% going to happen. Right? And if I go over and try to stop them, that's when everybody loses their mind. Right? If you go over to the kid with the knife or the fork trying to put it in the light socket and try to stop the kid from putting it in the light socket, that's when everybody loses their mind. And you're suddenly the bad guy, and everybody puts you in the corner, and everybody's like, oh, and they say whatever it is they're going to say. Well, now the kid's electrocuted, right? We're in the process of the kid electrocuting himself. And everybody's going, oh, he's electrocuting. Oh, whoa, goodness. And I'm just like, bump, 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 ba-na-na-na, da-na, da-na, like, straight up, like, what did you expect? And so it's very difficult for me to see this as a tragedy. I think that's what it is. That's what I'm trying to articulate, is that it's very, very difficult for me to view this as a tragedy. You know, that people around me are responding as though it is a tragedy. I don't see it that way. Like, this is the most cartoonish comedy that has ever been made. This is straight up like Three Stooges level dumb shit at this point. Where's the tragedy? Like, a tragedy would have been if America was actually trying to help anybody and was actually trying to build a society for itself and was actually like, what happened to the Soviet Union was a tragedy. That's a real tragedy. That the Soviet Union really strove to improve the quality of life for itself and its citizens and succeeded in many ways. But then eventually gets taken over by a group of dumbasses who are too stupid to really understand what they're doing or what their place is in history, who essentially betray the entire project and betray the people of the Soviet Union completely. That's a tragedy, right? What's happening here in America is like total just jerk off, like, comedy. Like American Pie, Three Stooges, Marx Brother, dumb shit, bullshit, nonsense. And I think the big reason why I say that is that it's because so much of it is completely preventable. It's still preventable. Like, that's the part about it that I think is what makes it a comedy. Is that you could stop this. It's not inevitable. Like, it wouldn't actually be that difficult to stop it. But instead of doing that, we're just going to let the pedophiles keep running the show, right? Pookie writes, most people are more conservative. Like, there's certainly not a color-haired young progressive person tweeting online. Did this sound offensive? Not really. Yeah, I think it's because the society itself is so far to the right. Like, the society itself is extremely right-wing. So, like, a progressive person in America is straight up a person being like, we should have a universal healthcare system. Like, in literally every other Western country, standing up and saying we should have a universal healthcare system is a right-wing position. Right? And it's a right-wing position because right-wingers have figured out that, oh, this is actually the best way to deliver this. Right? Like, if you and I'm talking about like an honest, true right-winger. So like a liberal. Like, if you're on the right wing in your society and you're not like kooky, go nuts, crazy, libertarian, far-right pedophile, if you're actually like on the right and you care about efficiency and you care about the cheapest way to deliver a service and you care about the best way to have that interact in your society, then you want a universal healthcare system. You want a single payer healthcare system. And like 130 countries across the globe have figured this out. This is the best way to do it, right? The only reason that it's being dismantled is because the pedophile class is like, but we could have that money for ourselves, right? That's all they figured out. They're like, oh, there's this big pot of money that we could just steal for ourselves, and all we have to do is take power, and then we can do that. And so they talk about efficiency, and they talk, oh, privatization is actually the way forward, and all this kind of, yeah, like... Sure, dude. The same people who are talking about privatization are also like, and we should lower the age of consent. Yeah, okay, bud. And there's like 20% of the society that is psychopathic enough to go along with that. But if you're like, so if you're living in America, right, chances are good that like the default position in America is extreme far right. That's where you begin in America. Like, gamer culture is extreme far right. Take a look at reality TV. Like, take a look at the most popular television shows in America. Like, it's all extreme far right Hunger Games shit. The people of America are like a depraved group of narcissistic psychos, and most of them who walk away from that stuff, right, and start moving more to the left, end up just being like regular right-wingers. Just regular people who are like, hey, maybe we should have systems that function and are efficient. Like, that's not left-wing stuff, right? Like, it's not a left-wing position to say we want a universal healthcare system. It's always weird that even Marxists will be like, well, Bernie Sanders is center-left. No, he's not. He isn't. He's not center-left. Bernie Sanders is center-right. Right? The furthest left person in American politics today is a right-winger. Bernie Sanders is a right-winger. Like, if he was here in Canada in 1994, he'd be a conservative. Like, left-wing ideas are like, get rid of landlords. Like, left-wing ideas are like, let's abolish ICE. Like, that's a left-wing idea. And there are people within the populace who get there, who are finally like, oh yeah, we should do that. But nobody within the political system. Literally nobody. Duke says, sadly, walkouts or strikes need central organization to be effective. People, don't walk out on your job if you don't have a plan to survive. Freestyle Skate writes, the SAVE Act, what's that? I believe that the SAVE Act is straight up just them requiring passports for you to vote, which is like, it's just voter control. Like, they can just cancel your passport. That's what they'll do, right? They'll pass this piece of legislation that says you need a passport to vote, which already takes like hundreds of thousands of people off the voter rolls. And then you'll show up with your passport on the day that you're supposed to vote, And they'll just tell you it's been canceled. And you're like, what? And so you'll call up your passport office, and they'll be like, oh yeah, it was just canceled by something in the system, just a glitch. Don't worry about it. We'll send you a new passport. Should be there in a couple of weeks. Oh, but I need it now to vote. Too bad. And by the time it all gets sorted out, so who do you think they're going to allow to vote? Like, how do you think it's going to look? So it's so obviously cartoonishly clear what they're trying to do. And meanwhile, CNN will just be like, well, this is the way. Duke says, I think it's fine to criticize them. Just the way most Western leftists say they are not socialists at all is insane to me. No, I think it's fine to have a criticism. I'm just saying that most Western leftist criticisms begin at a place of Western chauvinism. That's where they begin. They begin with this idea of we know best, right? It's not an objective critique, right? And so that's my criticism of their criticism, that until you can actually get to a place of like, oh, okay, like this is their history, this is the path that they went through to get to where they are, you're not really giving a fair criticism. Like, that's my point. Like, if it's very often the case that white Westerners do what I call snapshot analysis, where they basically just take a picture of where they are now and then compare them to their textbooks, as opposed to doing like a historical analysis, which is like, okay, so they've been at this for decades. Where did they start? What's their trajectory? Why did they make the decisions they made? And the most obvious thing, right? The thing that really shows you the chauvinism, right? It is what they omit in their analyses. Most white Western Marxist Leninists and Trotskyists and all these guys omit war from the analysis completely. War just doesn't count. There's no such thing as war. You never have a conversation about war. It's not a meaningful subject. It shouldn't be part of the conversation at all. That there's no such thing as making concessions. There's no such thing as losing a war. There's no such thing as having to make a decision between continuing war or what do we do to end the war. There's no such thing as compromise because of war. War is just not part of their analysis, right? And they act that way because they have the privilege to be able to do so. They've never experienced war. They've never experienced what a revolution looks like. They've never experienced what it is to actually fight an armed conflict against a force that's trying to destroy you. And so they just omit it. It's just not important, right? And I would say like 99.9% of white Westerners think this way. That they're just not interested in discussing war whatsoever. And if you do bring war into the conversation, they just sort of poo-poo it and just push it aside and just be like, well, that's social democrat talk. Like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, what are you talking about? Like, if you had armed thugs kicking in your door, pointing a gun at you, saying, hey, we're going to shoot you and your family, or you can go to work for us, we all know which one you'd pick. Like, it's so clearly putting like a religious ideology ahead of material reality. Like, violence, force, and war count. And most critics of China and the Soviet Union just omit it. It's just not part of the conversation, right? It's like how people criticize the Soviet Union, but they don't include the Nazis in the conversation at all. Which to me is just like, nothing reveals the insanity of white Westerners more than this, in my view. Like, during the 1940s, the Soviets, they acted in a very brutal way and they did some brutal things. It's like, yeah, I bet they did. Mao and Stalin, they centralized a lot of power and they created a real centralized government. Yeah, I bet they did. I absolutely bet they fucking did. as the Nazis marched on them and murdered 20 million of their citizens. I absolutely bet they did. Oh, how do we prevent communist projects from becoming centralized dictatorships? It's like, maybe don't have Nazis march on them. Oh, but they're going to. Why are they going to do that? Because communists and communist societies are the biggest threat to capitalist societies, period, and they know it. And the liberals in the society will bend the knee to fascists so that the fascists can go to war on the liberals' behalf. That's what they'll do. It's just not a serious part of the conversation for 90 to 99% of even white Marxists. And we're just clowns for it. We're just clownish. Like, a lot of these guys are just running a book club, and it's just a book club of like, so that they can be like, I'm trying to be better. I see that there are problems in the society, and I'm trying to be better, and I'm going to do better by joining a book club. Okay, bud, enjoy your book club. Duke writes, it's still a tragic comedy because of the victims. And there's a large demographic of good people with no power trying to fight back. Yeah. I mean, I take your point. It's just, I don't know. I'm just kind of over it. Like, death will soon take us all. That's all. That's it. Like, but your life is a bigger tragedy than what's going on in the world. Like, your life ends with your death. That's it. And I get if you can take a look at that and have a good laugh about it, then the rest of it doesn't become so serious. Freestyle Skate writes, oh yeah, so many apolitical Americans are inherently far right, or apolitical Americans are inherently far right. Well, because the society itself is inherently far right. Like, all of the institutions are fascist and have no credibility whatsoever, right? So simply existing in a position where you just kind of let the institutions persist without challenge means that you're on the far right. In another stream, we were talking about how during the Iraq War, violence was incredibly watered down through the internet, Call of Duty, etc. Yeah. And I mean, it pays to remember that the invasion of Iraq was extremely popular. That's something that people tend to forget. Everybody has kind of amnesia about it. But when George Bush announced that they were going to invade Iraq, and during the invasion of Iraq, George Bush and the invasion of Iraq had a 85% approval rating. Like, people were in favor of it, right? Now, you can make the argument that people were in favor of it because there had been a connection drawn between the invasion of Iraq and 9/11, and that people were in kind of a hysteria and a fervor in order to find justice for 9/11, which if they wanted justice, they should invade Israel, but that's fine. But it's only after the fact, right? It's only after the fact, through sober discussion, through this process of people being like, Iraq has absolutely nothing to do with 9/11. Saddam Hussein was literally put there by the CIA in the first place. Oh, look, they've botched the whole thing. They didn't find weapons of mass destruction, right? Colin Powell lied. Like, it's only through that big, long process that there's been blowback. There's been a pushback. And Donald Trump, in many ways, is the blowback, right? Like, the Iraq War, and then Donald Trump, and now we're going to have another blowback, right? Because that's how... That's boilerplate. Why am I blanking on this guy's name? Before Marx, there was Hegel. Wow, I can't believe I forgot that. I was like, Heinrich? Himmel? Definitely not Himmel. And I said the word Heinrich, and now I've forgotten what it was again. Hegel. That's like basic Hegel, right? That like an event happens, and then there's a response to that event. And that's how history moves forward. And that's how change happens. Is that everything responds to everything else. And so you have Iraq. And the response to Iraq is Donald Trump, whose anti-Iraq rhetoric is what propels him to the top of the Republican Party initially. And now, with all this Epstein stuff, you'll have another response. And it'll go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And those who are aware of this, who are aware of the concept of blowback and who are aware of that kind of stuff, do what they can to stabilize, right? Do what they can to make it so that the shifting of the pendulum is slower and more predictable and more stable. Americans aren't like that. Americans are like boom, 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 like, and they ride the chaos. They worship the chaos. They love the chaos. No, Bernie is not a socialist. Bernie is like a right-wing conservative. Like he, like everybody in the political system, is pro-war. He's just pro-smart war, right? Like it's maybe at one point he could have called himself a socialist, but I don't really see anything that convinces me he has a socialist inclination. Like, you can sort of credit him because he brought socialism into the public consciousness and the public conversation. I think that's probably the biggest favor that he did for left-wing politics. That before Bernie Sanders, saying that you were a socialist or saying that you had socialist politics in America was like a death knell, right? Because you live in a post-McCarthy era where if you're a communist, you might as well be Satan, right? And Stalin and Hitler were actually good allies and friends and loved each other and slept in the same bed together because you're too stupid to open a book and know anything, right? So you can give Sanders that, and I think you should. But like his policies and the things that he says in public, I'm like, yeah, like conservative stuff. It's just that like things have gotten so ridiculous. Like we're not even on the political spectrum. Like we're using the word fascist to try to describe it, but really what we're looking at is something else. It's not fascism. It's just stupid insanity. It's just crazy nonsense. It doesn't actually have political mooring. It's just straight up consume without thought. It's like fascism was at least like a stated doctrine. Like Mussolini wrote something down. You can read it, right? The doctrine of fascism was a response to communism. It was a way to try to counter the communist idea. And fascism is rooted in the idea that it's all power to the state, essentially, that the state is at the top of a hierarchy and that everything has to be done for the glory and goodness and benefit of the state. That's what fascism is all about. And like what these guys are doing is not for the glory or benefit of the state. So it's not to try to increase or solidify state power. It's just chaos. It's just like using the state as a cudgel. And that's why I say that, like, I don't think that what we are looking at is fascism. I think that what we are looking at is non-political. I think that what it is that a religious doctrine has taken over. And people are not acting politically. They're not in a political mindset. They're in a strictly religious mindset. And that religion is capitalism, right? That if you analyze capitalism from a scientific perspective or a political perspective, then you're a Marxist, right? If you live in reality and you observe it realistically and take a realistic position and actually like talk about capitalism as if it's real, then you're probably a Marxist, right? And the only way you let go of the Marxist worldview and the Marxist perspective is by introducing religion into the conversation. And so you just become this religious acolyte of capital and of capitalism, and you just treat capitalism as if it has deified powers and it has magical abilities. And for the last 10 years, that's how they've been talking about it. You listen to people like Kevin O'Leary or Jordan Peterson or Peter Thiel talk about this stuff, and try to defend capitalism, well, what do they sound like? They're not using a scientific analysis, right? They might have like some sciencey sounding language in there, sure, but it's all ideological. It's all ideological. And their religious worldview, the religious worldview of capital, is a worship of themselves, right? The meritocracy, and you'll go up the hierarchy, right? And what sets the hierarchy? Who's at the top of the hierarchy? The people who worship money the most, because money is a god. So if you have money, it doesn't matter how you have the money, then you're better than everybody else. That's why we're all supposed to pay attention to Elon Musk and give a shit about him, because he has the most money. And they all exist within a system of chaos, right? So they worship themselves, they worship money, and they worship chaos. And these three things, the unholy trinity of the capitalist death cult, right? That's a religion, baby. Like that's what they're doing. They're not trying to give all power to the state. They're not trying to erect a powerful state and then have everything focused on the state. Quite the opposite. They're trying to dismantle the state, and they're trying to dismantle centralized power structures, and they're trying to do that so that they can empower themselves, right? And I think that what we're looking at is just a religion, and that religion is called capitalism. It's the religion of capitalism, as opposed to the economic system of capital. And maybe we should give it a different name, and maybe we could call it something else. But like that's what it is. It's not fascism, right? These guys are too stupid to do fascism, right? These guys are too dumb to actually have like an organized theory around something. That they're pretty much just like monkeys at this point. They're just wild animals pursuing their base instincts. And it turns out that, you know, if you give $1 billion to somebody who's just a pedophilic, narcissistic psychopath, then guess what happens? Personally, I would say Bernie is a reformist utopian. Pookie says Bernie Sanders is a Jew. Yeah. That's a bit on the nose. Isaac writes, Dick Cheney and Condoleezza Rice, yeah, supported the Democrats in the last election. Yeah, I think that Chris Hedges' analysis of the last election was correct. That it was fundamentally a fight between corporate power, right? The old neocons and the old structure of corporate power, and oligarchs, just rich assholes who want to run the place for themselves, and that's what the fight is going to continue being. By the way, the next election coming up is going to be a fight between the oligarchs and the corporate power structure, and the corporate power structure is never, ever, ever going to move an inch on issues that matter to anybody. And so, like, don't be too shocked, don't be too blown away if the Democrats, quote unquote, drop the ball again. Because at the end of the day, the Democrats would prefer to have Donald Trump rule than allow Bernie Sanders a shot, or allow anybody who's actually like, maybe we should rein some of this corporate power in. They're never going to do that. Like they've purposefully built their party system and their party structure to prevent it. Like they're literally never going to allow it. Yeah, only comments YouTube likes go through, yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Soon they'll just close all this stuff down, guys. It's happening. Trump is governing in such a way that whether he makes his as a hero or falls as a villain, I don't think he cares about any of that stuff at all. Like, I think that he's just in it for himself and nothing else. Like, he doesn't care about legacy or any of that. Like, he cares about legacy insofar as it's like, I put my name on the side of that building. That'll show my dad. Peanut Butter Beatrice says he would not be in Congress if he were an actual socialist. Yeah, like if he was saying things that actual socialists would say. And then Peanut Butter Beatrice says theocratic fascism. I think, like, I understand why people are saying it's fascism. Like, I get it. I understand. It's something they can grab a hold of, right, to try to make sense of it. I'm just trying to point out that it isn't actually fascism. It's worse, right? Like, fascism is at least a doctrine and an idea that is rooted in a political statement, right? It's at least a concept that is written down and something that has a guiding post that people can be like, yes, the state, and we can restructure the society for the state, and here's a thought, right? Like, nothing that's happening now is based in any kind of political ideology or thought. It's just me. That's it. It's just me. That if you gave an oligarch 100,000 years to write his doctrine down in order to articulate what it is, it would just end up being the word me. That's it. So there isn't a philosophy behind it. There isn't a theory behind it. That it's people like me that are looking at it and being like, okay, well, what is the theory that they're running on? Like, what is the idea of it? And it isn't fascism. It's so much worse. It's so much worse. Like, it's literally just, I can do what I want. Like, it's the political philosophy of a baby. Freestyle Skates is slowing down my consumption has really slowed me mentally, and I think it would help others too. I know my own consuming won't save the world, but it brings me peace knowing I won't support pedophiles. Yeah. The thing I'm struggling with right now is because I'm in like this financial like plateau, I'm in this like real like kind of skating through position. I really want to start getting physically strong. I go through waves of it, where I like go and work out and then I like kind of edges off and then I do another push. And I really want to do another push, but one of the things that slows down, one of the reasons why I stop working out so much is because it increases my food consumption a lot. Like, I have to eat a lot of food in order to like be able to go to the gym and do the things that I do in the gym. And I straight up am in a position right now where I just don't have the money. I just don't have the money to be able to buy the food I need in order to actually do it. And so the moment I have any more money, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to go crazy. No, I have a little dumbbell set. Like, I've got it. Like, I show it to you. Like here's my 10-pounders. Right, these are good for just like general ones, right? For back here and all that. And here's my big 25-pounders, and these are good for like the biceps and all that, right? And then I've got some bands over here, and I've got a good space here, so I can do cardio work and push-ups and all that kind of stuff. But the thing that stops it, like my food consumption doubles. Like it's not insignificant. It's not like a 10% increase. It's like, oh, you need to eat double the amount of food. So that doubles the bill. And food prices are crazy right now. They're insane. So I just can't do it. I've charted it out, and it's not real. It's not possible. And so I just kind of have to tolerate being weaker. Like, tolerate being physically weaker. Duke writes, from my perspective, fascism is just a reactionary conspiracy cult. It's always incoherent and adaptive. Yeah. Like, I mean, even Mussolini's statement of, like, all power to the state is like, okay, well, it's just like, yeah, the guy that controls the state thinks that all power should go to the state. It's not too much different than the king being like, All glory to the king. Yeah, of course. God chose me. And if you believe it, then that's what matters, right? That's all that matters. Do you believe it? Are you willing to go along with it? That's it. It doesn't need to be coherent, because humanity is not coherent. Like, humanity is primarily emotional, mainly driven by hysteria. We try to put institutional power within it in order to give coherence and give humanity the vernacular and the vocabulary to be able to articulate what's going on, right? But for the most part, we're just like a crazed wild animal. Like, the Civil War is a good example, right? Like, the narrative that we tell about the Civil War is that Lincoln and the Republicans took cause against the South and so started this war in order to free the slaves. And it has a very, like, top-down men in rooms making declarations in order to go to, like... The real truth about the Civil War is that the Civil War happened because black people and their white allies took weapons and started shooting slavers. And enough of them started doing it, and enough of them, like, were just like, yeah, we've got the guns, we've got the power, we can gather. It's not even organized. We can just gather and move in a direction and start taking over farms and start seizing productive forces and start killing slavers and start doing this stuff. Until eventually, like, the power structure is like, okay, well, we gotta do something about this. And the choice that Lincoln was given was essentially start arming men in order to fight the people fighting against their own slavery, or just declare that you're on their side and just go along with it. And so he did. Right? Like, Lincoln wasn't the tip of the spear. He just rode that wave. And you can, like, credit him for things, and that's whatever you want to do, that's fine. Like, I'm not saying that demonizes Lincoln or whatever, but the narrative that we have that Lincoln was the force behind the Civil War, it's like, no. The humanity was. Humanity found this state of slavery to be so intolerable that it fought back and won and destroyed it. And that's how humanity is. And that's why it's so important for these crazed pedophiles to try to rein it in and try to keep control of it. And sometimes they do. Like, sometimes they do, right? But sometimes they don't. Content writes, if you want to be specific, it's more neo-Confederacy instead of Euro-style fascism. So much of what's happening in the USA is trying to rebuild Jim Crow, Confederate-styled governments. Duke writes, anything new maintains the character of what came before. I would argue USA was proto-fascist from the beginning in its supremacist ideology. Yeah, that's pretty fair. Like, the fact that the Nazis drew from the segregationist policies of the South to erect their own laws regarding the Jews says a lot. And the fact that the Nazis were like, oh, these segregationist laws go too far. That should be the big red flag, right? That should be the big red flag. You should be sitting there being like, so the Nazis thought the Americans went too far. Scrooge Too Sleepy over on Twitch says this image is so scarily accurate. Yeah, that's why I like it. I like accuracy. I like being accurate. It annoys everybody around me, including myself sometimes. Duke writes, I do think you have excellent commentary and enjoy this back and forth, even if we might have a slightly different perception of some terminology. Sure. Like, I'm an annoying person. I try very hard to be specific and accurate, and I don't like group think at all. I have 0% tolerance for it. And I think it's why I'll never be successful politically. Like, I'll just never be successful politically because I cannot tolerate groupthink. Like, I'm not willing to concede a point just to smooth things over for the group. I'm not going to join your weird little cult because everybody else thinks this way, right? If I think something is right, I'm going to say so. And it's just who I am and how it's going to be. And I'm willing to sacrifice a lot for it, right? Like, that's what makes me so upset about these, like, free speech warriors in America, is that for the most part, these free speech guys, they just want to say the N-word, right? They don't actually give a shit about what free speech is for, right? And that what free speech is for, it's so that you're protected from the group and you're protected from groupthink. That you don't just have to go along with what everybody is saying because they're saying it. And I think because of my background, because I have fallen into groupthink and I've seen what groupthink looks like, and I understand what, like, religious cults look like, and I see what that does, and I see how it is. And the hardships that it can give people for no reason, like just annoying, really. And so I always try to find, like, a third rail. Like, so I'll give you the clearest example that I can think of off the top of my head in my life. And it's not political, it's religious. Like, I do consider myself a theist, right? I think that the atheists and the agnostics are primarily wrong. But I think that the way the theists talk about it is also very wrong. Like, I think most of them are kind of falling just for a group think that this is the way we've always talked about this, and so this is the way I'll talk about it, and it's, like, not accurate, and it's sort of embarrassing. And so I frustrate both sides. I frustrate the atheists and I frustrate the theists, and both of them walk away from me being like, this guy. And the theists are especially funny because, like, they really don't know what to do with me. Like, they're really, like, because, like, especially modern day evangelical Christians, right? They're fundamentalists. And so they're stupid. They're inherently dumb. And they're inherently dumb because they think magic is real. They read the Bible and they think there literally was a guy doing wizardry in the Middle East at one point. And it's like, obviously that's not real. And it's pretty unlikely that anybody who was involved in those stories actually thought that was real. Like, and it's actually a really stupid way to think. Like, atheists are correct when they point that out, that it's like the end of thought. Because obviously these stories are symbolic. Like, obviously they're full of symbolism, and they obviously connect to, like if you're living in, like, ancient Greece, and you have stories around you like Dionysus, and you hear the story of Christ turning water into wine, you're immediately like, this is a story about Dionysus. Right? Instantly. And so, like, and you go forward 2,000 years, and there's some hick in Texas who's like, Jesus was a wizard that turned water into wine, and that's truth of his power. And they do everything they can to prove the reality of turning water into wine. It's just like, what a waste of time. Like, what a waste of time. What a waste of everybody's time. And to get away from that kind of thinking, you've got to, like, sacrifice a whole community. It's annoying. And so I try to find the third way. Always. I'm always trying to find the third way. Like, because usually it's the case that one side has a tribal take and the other side has another tribal take, and they have their groupthink so that they can talk to their communities and be included in their club. And I take a look at both sides and go, you both are wrong. There is a third way. There is a third rail. And you're just missing it. No, centrism, there's no such thing as centrism. Centrists are right-wingers. A centrist is a person who wants to have a third way and fails. right? They claim that they're third way, but they're really just a right winger. Freestyle Skate says, yeah, USA was fascist since its start. I argue that the American Revolution was a counter-revolution, and because of the revolution, USians feel that we don't need another revolution. We did one already. Well, and there's a lot of evidence to show that their quote-unquote revolution really was just the British being like, if we actually go in there and throw these guys over, then it's going to lead to a lot of... there's going to be a lot of profit losses. Right? And we're really going to open it up for the French. So it's actually better if we just sort of like, yeah, okay, you're in charge. Right? And then the merchants and manufacturers kept making money. The British merchants and manufacturers kept making money. And the political class just sort of declined. And the merchants and manufacturers didn't care. And you're just like, oh, sure. So instead of paying a 2% tax to King George, we'll pay it to you, Washington, sure. But we still get slaves, right? Like, we still get our plantation? Great. Austin says, John would be a factionalist in the USSR. Just kidding, John, your takes are great. Yeah, I don't know what I would be in the USSR. I mean, fuck the kulaks, so I think I'd probably be on board with that. Duke says, yeah, calling yourself a communist openly instead of a socialist will hold you back in the marketing game. Yeah, but my theory or my thinking on that has always been, I want to put my thumb as deep into the eye of a capitalist as I can. And I think if everybody started calling themselves communist and started talking about communism constantly as a positive force, I think that would scare the shit out of these guys. Isaac, what happened in Germany was not much different than what had been happening in the South. Yeah. Pookie asks, is it legal to wave the Nazi flag in Canada? No. You will go to jail. Correctly. Like, the idea that you can wave around a Nazi flag and face no repercussions whatsoever, that's not a real thing. Like, if you live in a country that permits that kind of activity, you live in a Nazi country. Freestyle Skate, it's pretty odd for a country like America that loves free speech, yet echo chambers and cults seem to flourish in it more than anywhere else. Oh, dude, that's like a huge conversation, right? Like I think because America has no credible institutions, right? Because America has no credible institutions and there's so much chaos in the conversation, it is susceptible to cults. That a cult is fundamentally made up of desperate people with nowhere else to go. That's fundamentally what a cult is. And that's why most people are willing to engage in groupthink and why most people are willing to just sort of let bygones be bygones. Like, my mom was like this. Like, she never believed anything that the church had to say. And she told me so. But she was like, yeah, but these were my friends. This is where my community was. Right? And so I would never stand up and be like, this sounds like nonsense. Because that would alienate the church and alienate people within the church. Right? And I would be rejected from the church. And cults operate in a very similar manner. Right? That if you're friends, this is your community, and if you've got nowhere else to go, and this is your support system, yeah, you're willing to believe a bunch of nonsense and bullshit, or at least let it slide, right? At least just be like, yeah, all right. And because America has no credible institutions, and it doesn't really have like a credible ruling philosophy or any first principles that anybody can agree on, it's completely susceptible to cults. And like, the more desperate things get, the more cults you'll see. Duke writes, what impressed me first stream I watched you is your media commentary. if you didn't do politics, you could probably be bigger in the normie sphere. Oh yeah, I mean, I've said it before, dude. No. If I wanted to be huge, dude, like, and I've known this from almost the beginning. I think I could be huge. I think I could be a huge internet celebrity, and I don't think it would be that difficult. If I wanted to be a huge internet celebrity, I would just be like a Christian commentator, right? I would just be like, hey guys, Jesus is coming back, right? I would just be like one of these end times guys, and I would just believe in or spread around this nonsense Jesus stuff. Like, if I had no moral center and if I was just in it for the money, right? I'd just be one of these fire and brimstone, like, Jesus Christ is coming. Well, followers and Savior, here we are again to celebrate the inevitable coming of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Now we see here out in the world there's so much vengeance and despair and the trans people and the gay people, and they're coming down to spoil the good white nature of America. And we need to fight back against these people. Like, I would fucking make millions of dollars doing that. For sure. Like, and how do I know? Because it works. Like, because people buy that shit. And all you look, if you want to make $1 million doing this kind of shit, all you have to do is find out what people inherently think and inherently believe, and say it back to them. That's it. Like, that's it. You don't make a whole lot of money trying to change hearts and minds. You don't make a whole lot of money by confronting people. You don't make a whole lot of money by living in the truth, or trying to discover what the truth is, and then trying to reveal that to people and having people have their worldview challenged. It's not how you make a whole lot of money. You make a whole lot of money by speaking people's biases back to them. Like, if you want to see somebody who's doing it to perfection right now, who's just like a complete and total fraud, who has no inherent belief system and is just going to tell you whatever he's paid to tell you, you're looking at Asmongold. Like, that guy is just like magnificent fraud. It's actually perfect, right? And like, I could do it. It's not hard, right? Like, people are by their nature inherently racist, bigoted, somewhat sociopathic, and by their nature obedient to power. Like, it takes a while, and it takes some training and some thought and some diligence for people to finally get to a point where they're like, oh, wait a minute. Like, but when we begin as humans, we're inherently closed. We're inherently small-minded. We're inherently tribal, and we inherently defer to power. Like, you believe your dad is a god when you're a little kid, right? And a big part of growing up is realizing that, oh, your parents are just kind of normies like you. Like, your parents are just kind of like regular folk, right? And lots of people go through this kind of like journey where they begin by thinking their parents are gods, infallible deities, right? They have so much fear and respect for their family, for their parents. And then once that breaks, once it's obvious that that's not the case, then they go in the other direction, where their parents are evil, disrespectful, shitbag, and everything that's wrong with me is my parents' fault, and so you give them supernatural powers in the other direction, right? And so you're still kind of a kid. You've just gone the other direction. And it isn't until you finally pull back and you're like, okay, wait a minute. I think my parents were just people who were also caught up in all of this, and my expectations of them are unrealistic. right? It's unrealistic to expect them to have deified powers, and it's unrealistic to expect them to have so much power that they can alter the course of your life in a dramatic way, right? Like neither of these polls are accurate. And what is accurate is that your parents are just caught up in this ridiculous shit show too, and here you are. That's it. And to me, when you grab hold of that, that's when you're an adult. And I've met like 12-year-old adults, and I've met 65-year-old children. And if you want to make a whole lot of money, right, find a way to wedge yourself into that conversation and just confirm the bias of the person who holds the belief. Yeah, your parents really are dickheads. Give me $50. And they will. Like, people want their biases confirmed. People want to know that what they think is right. Because people want to be right. They don't want to be wrong. They don't want to have their worldview confronted. Right? And fortunately for me, and the work that I do here, I don't have to actually be that persuasive, right? That I just have to be here holding up a sign being like, it's all falling apart. It's all falling apart for these reasons, right? And a person might listen to it and not take it very seriously, or they might just like reject it, right? And most people do. Like, most people reject it out of hand and they leave. But I don't care, because I'm not the one that's going to be persuasive, right? The system of capital is going to be the thing that's persuasive, right? That what's more persuasive than this Epstein scandal? What's more persuasive than the decline in prosperity across America? Like, what's more persuasive than that? I don't need to persuade anybody of anything. I just need to be a voice so that when they finally clue in that something's gone fucky, they might think to themselves, you know, there was this guy. He had this alternative perspective that I haven't heard anywhere else. Maybe I should think on that. And like, I think one of the things that's really releasing, you're never going to get that moment when a person goes, oh, wow, you're right, I'm wrong. That's not how this works. It's never been how this works, right? And so releasing myself from the expectation of experiencing that is really freeing, right? You're never going to have a person admit that they're wrong and you're right. It's just not. I mean, if that does happen, that's like truly special. Like, that's a truly special moment. Yeah, Bound is like, yeah, be a VTuber as a peanut. Exactly. Like, the number one VTuber right now, I think he won an award, is a dude who puts a skin on where he's a peanut. And he plays Call of Duty. Super popular. Freestyle writes, I had to alienate myself from a friend group for years after becoming a communist. It sucked at first, but now I feel free. Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. Duke writes, normalizing communism to scare the ruling class is a good argument. It's the only time they make concessions. Exactly. Yeah, the whole concessions-based bargaining argument is like, okay, cool. Then where's your people to scare the shit out of them? Because like the Democrats ain't it, baby. Like the Democrats aren't scaring anybody. Like, oh no, we got somebody in power who also funds ICE. Like I really like this one. 2003 to 2016, Democrats fund ICE. 2017 to 2020, Democrats denounce ICE. 2020 to 2024, Democrats break funding record for ICE. Like, I don't know why any Republican would ever actually be afraid of any Democrat outside of like woke gender politics. Like, you know, you just need to take a look at the Republican Party and how it how it galvanizes so much support. Like, they're literally just looking at little boys who are like, trans people are icky. What is a woman? Trans people are icky, and icky trans people are scary. Did you know that sometimes trans people read books to kids? Sometimes trans people are in the same room as children. That's scary. Here's $150 million. Like, for real, that's what's happening. And so you just play to the app, and it's helpful if you are also a little kid, right? Like, if you're someone like Ben Shapiro, Ben Shapiro's a little kid. He's just like a little boy who thinks trans people are icky and that girls should be in the kitchen, and like, it's just little boy thinking. And like, and so he's very popular because there's a lot of little kids around. Isaac writes, many cults were created in the 1800s, like Adventists, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, and others have become global. Yeah. And like, it's so funny because you look at the history of like all of those. The Mormons is like the most obvious one. Like, it's clearly a cult. It's so obviously started as a cult. Just a dude who like walked out of a room and like, I have golden tablets. Sure you do, bud. Hull writes, good to see you, by the way, Hull. Isn't the church supposed to be communist-ish in a way by principle? Yeah, you would think if you actually read it, right? If you actually read it, like, it's explicitly communist in the Book of Acts. Like, the Book of Acts writes about the beginning of the first churches. And it's straight up like, yeah, they took everything they owned and they distributed it amongst one another, right? Each according to their, there's a fun phrase to fuck up. Each according to their need and each according to their something. Somebody's going to write it in the chat and I'll just be like, yeah, correct. I'm having a real George Bush moment. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, you ain't going to get fooled again. Bound writes, I had a few friends who went super far left and just stopped talking to anyone who didn't follow them. Yeah, I mean, that's life, baby. It's tough. Like, it's tough. Like, sometimes you like, I don't know if I would like to talk to somebody who's considered, black people inferior. And like, it sort of depends on what kind of stuff you're talking about. Duke writes, haha, you would make a lot of money going full white supremacy far right, but you wouldn't be mainstream with liberals. You have to cuck yourself to Trump right now and whoever comes next. Yeah, like if you have no self-respect or sense of decency, right? If it's just like, what can I do to have $1 million? You don't give a fuck. Sure, cuck yourself to Trump. Who cares, right? Like, that's the entire Trump administration. Like, they've all done that. They're all just like literally everybody in the Trump administration before Trump, like when Trump was coming to power in the first place, they were against him. Everybody denounced Trump. Nobody, like, the most obvious one and the most hilarious one is Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, like, spoke out like really, really strongly against Donald Trump. And Donald Trump like called his wife a dog and like insulted his family. And Ted Cruz was like, you don't speak about a man's family that way. And he was like really against Donald Trump. And then Donald Trump took power and Ted Cruz is like, Donald Trump is the future of the Republican Party and we need to be on. So he like just completely 180'd in like a really obvious way. He has no principles, right? These guys don't have principles. It's just power. That's it. It's just power. And if I were like that, if I were just like, how do I appeal to the powerful and how do I make money? That's all I would do, right? I would just be like, like, man, the housing crisis, real problem. It's all this immigration. Have you noticed how many immigrants are around now? Yeah, if you walk outside, all you see all day long is just immigrants. Immigrant. I remember you'd walk outside, you wouldn't see a guy with a towel on his head. Nobody would have a towel on their head. They'd be walking around and they'd be good, white, God-fearing Christian men. And now we got all these people from all other religions and ethnicities coming around. These aren't real Canadians. Real Canadians are people who were born here. Good God-fearing Christian men. Like, I'd make $1 million. I would. I'd be very popular. Isaac, yeah, it's not popular to tell people things contrary to their beliefs. Yeah, I've kind of always known that. And part of that is because of, like, my Christian upbringing. Like, the people in the Bible, the prophets and the disciples and all these people, like, they weren't popular, right? A lot of them were thrown out. A lot of them were, like, crucified and shit. And so, like, when I started this, I always knew, like, I'm never going to be, like, a multi-millionaire doing this. Like, that's never, and that's not what it's about. In many ways, it's like, it's just because, like, I felt drawn to do it, and I know that I have to do it, and I've always known that I have to do it, because, I feel like I say this, and it feels arrogant to say, and I'm trying to find a way to say it so it doesn't sound so arrogant, but it's true. It's just how I think. Like, I don't define myself as, like, a human. Like, I'm just visiting this plane of reality. This isn't my home. I don't really live here, right? Like, none of us actually live here. We just are here for a moment. And then we all go back home, and we're just back to wherever we came from. And so while I'm here, I'm taking a look at what these goddamn monkeys are all about, while acknowledging that I inhabit a monkey suit. I am monkey, and here I am, right? I am also susceptible to these things, and acknowledging it is the first part of getting over it, or getting through it. And while I'm here, I'm just going to be like, this is what these monkeys are up to, man. Crazy. And there's like recently I've had a little thought that, like, maybe I'll make like a book or a story or something and write it and send it into the world with the hope that maybe I'll come back. Like, maybe there'll be around 2, right? Or 3 or 4 or whatever, right? For John. And I'll come back. And maybe when I come back, I'll grab hold of that book. And I'll be like, oh, hey, here's this book. And it'll just spell everything out. And the next iteration of John will be like, oh, this spells this shit out. That's a fun little thought to have. That's a fun little thought to have. But, like, it's not about wealth or popularity to me. It's not about... It's about helping the beast that is humanity figure itself out, right? It's not about power. It's about helping creation understand its own creation. Like, that's what it's about. And it doesn't matter to me if it's popular. Like, it doesn't matter at all. Because that's, like, everybody who I've read, who I've respected at all, was not popular. It's not what it's about. That the stories that endure, and the histories that endure, and the realities that endure are the ones written by people who tried to tell the truth and who tried to see what was actually going on. And when the power structures decay and fall apart, and when they stop propagating their own stories, then the real shit starts to show up. And, like, creation is interesting. Reality is interesting. What's going on? What's happening? What's happening to us? What is this? Why are we here? What is the purpose of any of this? And the reason why I don't get too specific anymore, like, I used to get a little bit more specific than I do now, right? Try to really do like day-to-day news or all this kind of stuff. But the reason why I don't do that is because I don't find it to be very valuable. Like, the democratic system in America will eventually disappear, right? And what's more interesting is to answer the question, why? Anyway. Duke writes, I do agree a large portion of humans are inherently cucked to authority because of childhood, but only a small percentage true sociopath. People are almost entirely environmental. Yeah. Pookie writes, Jewish people are always trying to, sort of when we're up, we see how it unfolds. I think you want to clean this up a little, dude. Like, I get real suspicious when people start talking about the Jews. Like, red flag. Bit of a red flag. Free Scott says, if you told me 10 years ago I would be a communist, I would have thought you were mad. Yeah. I actually thank Jordan Peterson for my pivot to communism. Because I was paying a lot of attention to Jordan Peterson when Jordan Peterson was around. And he said something about how Marxists were evil. And I really went, oh, if this guy thinks Marxists are evil, I should take a look. And so I just grabbed the Communist Manifesto. No, I didn't even grab the Communist Manifesto. I literally did a YouTube audiobook search for the Communist Manifesto and listened to it while I was doing my dishes. And I remember I was listening to the Communist Manifesto, and I immediately was just oh, this is exactly correct. This is actually a perfect articulation of what my life's experience has been within the system of capital. It's actually exactly correct. And so I immediately was just okay, I'm a communist, for sure. This is correct. And the more reading I've done and the more thinking I've done on it and the more I've looked into it, the more I'm just yeah, this is absolutely correct. And the more I get confronted by capitalists about, well, what about this and what about that? I'm okay, well, what about that? So I do some research, and I find out that everything the capitalists think about it and tell me about it is bullshit and wrong. And I'm oh, okay. I'm yet to be I'm yet to see anything that's made me go oh fuck, these communists, they actually are evil and they did this thing. It's yeah, usually not. Certainly there are moments where some bad stuff goes down, but it's usually because the event is incredibly complex and difficult. And the communists are trying to find a solution that isn't just enslave them and commit a genocide. That's the capitalist solution, right? That's what's so funny, is that capitalists will point at a situation that happened in a communist society where there's some negative outcome occurred that they can really hyper-focus on. And what you see when you look at it is a bunch of communists trying to find a solution to the problem. And then you take a look at a similar situation that happens in a capitalist society, and the capitalists are just round everybody up and put them in concentration camps, for Christ's sake. Okay, which one of these two would you prefer to have? I mean, if you're a capitalist, we know the answer. Freestyle Skate says, unfortunately, Trump taking down other people's wives and family resonated with working class in America. Well, that's because initially, it pays to remember that Donald Trump doesn't have principles, right? He is the master. That process I told you of how I would become popular, just tell you what you're thinking. He's the master of that, right? And one of the things that Donald Trump really grabbed hold of very early on was that a lot of people in the Republican Party were really, really upset with the Bush administration. Were really, really upset with how the Bush administration handled the Iraq War. Were really upset that Bush lied to them, right? A lot of these guys are not anti-war. They're just anti-bad war. Right? And they don't want to be lied to go into a war. They want to believe that when they go into a war, it's a righteous war. Right? And it very over time, it became pretty obvious that the Iraq War was not a righteous war. That the Iraq War was a quagmire, a clusterfuck, a fuck up, right? If you wanted to be honest, it's a moral abomination, right? So a lot of people were mad about that, and Donald Trump grabbed hold of that and really nailed Jeb Bush, right? Like when that election cycle started, everybody was like, Jeb Bush is probably going to be the nominee, right? That's George Bush's brother. Yeah, it's Jeb Bush's turn. Like here's Jeb Bush, here he's coming. Donald Trump murdered Jeb Bush. Like Jeb Bush never pulled higher than 5%. He pegged Jeb Bush with that Iraq War stuff, and it stuck like hell. And to me, that was the beginning of the thrust of Donald Trump's run. Was he grabbed hold of that, and that's the reason I think why a lot of people are kind of ride or die with George Bush or with Donald Trump. Like even now, it's because like Donald Trump did take on, quote unquote, take on the establishment, right? He took on the neocons, and he essentially purged the Republican Party of the neocons. Like that's true. That did happen, right? And if you're one of these people who like felt completely betrayed by the Republicans and by George Bush and by the neocons, and you're like, it's a part of your identity that we've been betrayed, we've been lied to by these neocons, then Donald Trump is your guy. And when Donald Trump starts talking about going in there and draining the swamp, you're like, yeah, he's going to drain the swamp, just like he drained the Republican Party of these neocons. And I forget why I started talking about this. Oh, yeah. And so when Trump really made it personal with a lot of these guys, that resonated really deeply, right? Like, fuck these guys. Like, Donald Trump talking shit about their wives and chasing them out of the Republican Party is like the beginning of what should happen to a lot of these guys, right? Like, a lot of these guys, like, Colin Powell should be hung. Like, straight up. Like, that guy should go to the Hague. Straight up. And so you should count as lucky stars that the worst thing that happens is that we say bad things about his wife. Hull writes J.D. Vance didn't like Trump too. Probably still doesn't, yeah. J.D. Vance, what a... The best meme about J.D. Vance is that blown up face. You guys know what I'm talking about. Duke writes, you could say you've always felt like an outside observer and that gave you a more naturalistic scientific analysis of the world, so you feel like a responsibility to share that perspective. I mean, I suppose I definitely have always been an outsider. Like, I'm from rural Manitoba, and I feel like I've always been on the outside of everything. And I've never felt like I've been on the inside of anything. Like every institution I've ever been a part of, I've always kind of been on the outs. And I suppose you could say it's like a responsibility to share that perspective. But it's like a responsibility to who? You know, like... Yeah, I'll chew on that a little bit more. Freestyle Skate says, I like the anarchist critique of parenting unironically. They talk about how parenting is very traumatic to kids, and that traumatic experience and babying of them sets them up to become dependent on state institutions. The need for bosses, the need for institutions, no matter how harmful they can be, for sure. So Pookie, I'm gonna give you a tip. I'm going to give you a hot tip. Okay? When you want to talk about Israel and Greater Israel and the Israeli project, right? Use the word Zionist. Say Zionist. Right? Because like especially like in this format that I'm in, but anywhere you are out in the world, right? If you start talking about the Jews and saying things like Jews be like, red flag. Like red flag with a swastika in the middle of it. We all see it. So if you want to talk about like plans for greater Israel in the Middle East, right, aren't new, something many actively seek in the Middle East, like that sort of stuff, which is good analysis, because greater Israel is real. Like Benjamin Netanyahu has shown us his plans for greater Israel at the UN. Like that's definitely a real thing. But like, try to stay away from the Jews. And I even suggest staying away from Israeli, right? And Zionist. That's what you want to be saying, for sure, 100%. And I think it's really important that we make that distinction. I think it's really, really important to make a distinction between Zionism and Judaism, because, and you can see this with like Nick Fuentes, right? Nick Fuentes does this, that as the American attitude turns away from Israel and away from these Zionists, and as people begin to reject Zionism and reject the relationship that America has with Israel as a political force, there is going to be a group within the United States that conflate Zionists and Zionism with Jews, and that they will begin talking about purging Jews from their society. Look at what they did to Israel. Look at what they did to Palestine, right? So we got to go after the Jews. That is not a fairy tale or a suspicion, right? The Nazis that exist in the United States that for some reason are allowed to have YouTube and Twitch channels talk this way and make that connection. And so it's very, very, very important for us to make that distinction when we talk about Israel, Zionism, and Judaism. Because if all you say is the Jews, then you are supporting like a general roundup of the Jews, which we here at the Canadian Economy do not support. Or at the very least, you're playing into the hands of the people who believe that and want to see that and make that a reality. Freestyle Skate says, I forgot how I got introduced to communism. I think learning about how American cities were not only built but destroyed and redone to continue segregation did it for me. Yeah. Yeah, Joe writes, in the 2016 campaign, he appeared to be against the establishment. I mean, he ran on the drain the swamp, baby. We all remember that. Drain the swamp. Like, that's a real thing that he was running on. And so it does make a type of sense. Like, if you're a ride or die with Donald Trump, it makes a type of sense that, like, oh, this is just the establishment trying to get him. And, like, his whole, like, they stole the election thing from me. Like, again, if you're ride or die with Donald Trump, it's like, yeah, why wouldn't they? Like, why wouldn't they try to do that? Of course, it's all bullshit. Like, it's total nonsense. But since when has, like, Donald Trump's not interested in telling you the truth. He's interested in telling you what you believe. He wants to confirm your bias. That's all. And he's really good at it. And, like, this Epstein scandal is finally, like, the straw that's breaking the camel's back for a lot of these guys. Although there's a ton of them that are like, Donald Trump was there to expose it. Yeah, he went to Epstein's Island to gather information to expose it. It's like, okay. Like, these guys are ride or die, dude. Like, it's all like post hoc justification. Pookie writes, to be a good politician, you must have the masses. Yet Trump just seems more reasonable because he promises big change. The southern countryside mass sees something in him. They're tired of Democrats. No, I just think that it's like look, humans are motivated by only three things: power, love, and vengeance. At the very core of every single human being, and at the very core of any human story, you will find some combination of these three things. And the best stories that exist are a combination of all three. Power, love, and vengeance. Donald Trump is a force of vengeance. He is the force of vengeance that exists within the Republican Party to cleanse the system of its elements that result in something like the Iraq War. So imagine what that force of vengeance is going to look like against Donald Trump, because that's coming, right? Like, America is like on a vengeance quest right now. And there are players within the system that are interested in power, right? And the love that they have is a type of self-love, right? So it's like a twisted, distorted love. But the human body, like the force of humanity, oh man, when that vengeance gets unleashed, oh baby, and you see moments like I point to the Occupy movement. Like, the Occupy movement is this really beautiful moment of the love of country and the love of nation, and of people challenging power and kind of with a force of vengeance, speaking out against power. And it's the shot across the bow. It's a moment when people are like, we want to do this peacefully. We want to transition peacefully. We see that things are going badly. We would like to transition peacefully. Okay, well, now imagine the Occupy movement, but it's not at all peaceful whatsoever, and has no intention of ever being peaceful. It's coming, baby. Like, it's coming. And I don't think, like, the powerful see it coming. They kind of foolishly believe they'll be able to control it or withstand it. I don't think so. Freestyle writes, did you know that the Roman salute was originally what Americans did for the Pledge of Allegiance before World War II? It's almost as though Americans are Nazis. Yeah, that's the thing. It's just another grift. Yeah. No. Trump doesn't believe the things he says. He just knows that you do. And that's what matters. Isaac, yeah, Trump purged the neocons and brought in the crazy ones. Yeah, and what's so funny is that, so like, you take a look at like Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? Like, Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of the MAGA people that he brought in, who's just like kind of a nut. But like, now she's like his biggest enemy, and she's like speaking out against him. Because some of these people, like, they might be kooky and they might be weird, but they actually do have principles. Like, they're not like him. They actually do have principles. And even though their principles are weird and distorted and strange and odd, they are in fact principles. And now that this whole Epstein thing has happened, a lot of these people, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a good example, right? Are like, fuck these guys. Like, fuck Donald Trump. And like, Marjorie Taylor Greene was like a mega hat, man. Like, she was like in the base, and she is in the base. And so there's a lot of shit happening in that regard. Donald Trump keeps saying low energy Bush during a debate. I remember that. Says Dave. Duke says, yeah, that's how I interpret when you were saying, I said, looking for a less arrogant way to say it. Yeah. Freestyle Skate says, yeah, our man Marx was Jewish, as was Lenin. We don't do that as communists. Jewish people are not our enemies. Yeah. We don't call Nazis Germans. Yeah. Ethnic Jews share 75% of DNA with Palestinians. Zionists don't share any. Yeah, and a lot of these, like the largest Zionist group are Christian Zionists, right? Pookie says, what are my thoughts of the people that inhabit Israel? So the system, there are major institutions that exist within Israel in order to create a supremacist state. And they have a lot of propaganda. You can go online and find videos of their school system where kids are talking about how Palestinians are dogs and animals. Whenever the people of Israel are polled about the Gaza genocide, there's enormous majority support for the genocide in Gaza, in Israel. That the Israeli people have bought in, whether through propaganda or whether because they're true believers, they've bought in to the genocide. And so you're looking at a real biblical moment. It's so weird that these guys will reference the Old Testament or the Torah, and it's so clear that they've never read it, because if they did read it, they would understand that a good portion of it is woe be to Israel. The story of the Israelites, the ancient Israelites, is a story of a people who antagonized everyone around them. And so the Babylonians came in and wiped them out and took them away and brought them into slavery in Assyria. And then eventually, over time, they were released and they returned back to their homeland. Right? And that's the Old Testament story. That's the Torah story of the Jews, of the Israelis. And here they are with their Torah being this is our homeland. It says so in this book, doing the very thing that all of their prophets tell them not to do. Right? Read it. Open up the Old Testament, open up the Torah, read the thing, especially the prophets, and you're just going to see a bunch of guys being woe be to Israel. Whoa, you guys are going to get fucked up for this. And guess what happened? And so you ask me what my thoughts of the people that inhabit Israel are? Woe be to Israel. It's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. All it's going to take for Israel to become completely destroyed is one president saying we are no longer funding Israel. That's all it's going to take. And Israel will do what it does, which is antagonize everybody around it, and they'll just get absolutely pounded. Absolutely pounded. The last time Iran attacked Israel with its missile systems was a real eye-opening moment. Not just for Israel, but also for the people around the Middle East. That Israel had always had this kind of aura of impenetrability. It has what's called the Iron Dome. And Iran's last attack against it really showed everybody, oh, the Iron Dome is completely fallible. You can just overwhelm it. And in fact, the Iranians have access to missiles that the Iron Dome can't compete with. Right? If you launch hypersonic missiles at Israel, it'll hit its target. And there's a reason why Israel is so interested in America doing a full-scale invasion into Iran, because they want to destabilize it and break it apart. That's why you have all these protests happening. That's why there's this Free Iran movement going on right now, right? But the real truth is that if they began a real engagement with Iran, Israel would just get pounded. Really, really pounded. And woe be to Israel. You antagonized everybody around you. Your people, the people of Israel literally go onto TikToks and make TikToks mocking the Palestinians and the genocide. So it's tough, right? It's there's a part of me that's man, I wish that they could break away from the propaganda, and I wish they could see the humanity, and I wish that they could have a real come to Jesus moment and be oh, we see the error of our ways, right? None of that's going to happen. None of that's going to happen. The sad, sorry truth about what's going to happen to Israel. And I can be pretty confident because it's happened to Israel before. Right? Just read their book. They don't. Israel will be wiped out. It won't be pretty. It won't be beautiful. It won't be glorious. That eventually America is unwilling or unable, and I think unable is probably the most accurate part of it, to prevent it. And the enemies of Israel, and it has many, it's made many enemies, will destroy it. And that will be the end of Israel. That will be how it goes. Joe writes, Trump believes in nothing, it seems. He's an agent of chaos, is he not? Yeah. Like, this is, like, he is the perfect icon of the religion of capitalism, right? He believes in himself, he believes in money, and he believes in chaos, right? That's what his belief system actually is. Like, Donald Trump has actually stated what his philosophy is. He stated it in his book, The Art of the Deal. Right? And if you watch the film The Apprentice, they state it several times throughout that film. Donald Trump's political philosophy and life philosophy, right, is deny, deny, deny. Right? Truth is what I say it is. Right? And attack, attack, attack. That's Donald Trump's political philosophy. So, if someone accuses you of something, accuse them of something. Never admit anything. And if you do tell a story, whatever you said is true, regardless of the evidence or information. And if you can back that up by bribing people or by blackmailing people, then you win. And it's been a very successful strategy for him. Joe says, Marjorie actually seemed to believe Trump was genuine somehow. I mean, Trump is a very effective liar. Like, he is. He's a very effective grifter. Duke of Bread, the left better turn this Epstein thing to our advantage, because if not, it will be the Nazis and the ruling class will put them into power as an emergency button. Yeah. Like, yeah. Pookie says Palestine will never be peace by bordering Israel. I think that's true. The big news now is that a war between USA and Iran might happen. Yeah, I mean, they've moved aircraft carriers into the region. They've moved stuff. China has actually made a very strong statement against that. They've explicitly stated, like, this is very important to understand. China has explicitly stated that if the United States attack Iran, China will defend Iran. Right? Like, it's not a theory or an idea, or they might. They've stated it. And so that means that should America attack Iran, it will be a direct confrontation with China. I don't think America's ready for that. I don't think they're ready for that smoke. And and moreover, I don't think they're willing to get into that conflict, especially because they have absolutely nothing to gain by doing it. Like, that's the thing that's so strange. And why it has like a religious feel to it, is that America has absolutely nothing to gain through any of this. It doesn't really have anything to gain by protecting or serving Israel. It doesn't have anything to gain by dismantling or destroying the Middle East. It operates on a kind of a political philosophy of, like, if we can keep this region destabilized, then they can't build power to confront us. But they're pouring so much wealth and money into doing it that they're destabilizing themselves. So it's just dumb. Like, it's just, usually when countries engage in war, it's for a reason. There's some kind of backing. There's something there to it. America's just doing shit, it looks like. Yeah, Iran truly shocked the world last summer, for sure. Won't the U.S. protect them? I mean, currently the U.S. will come to Israel's aid, but I mean, time passes, right? Like, things change. Austin writes, they think China is bluffing. They always think they're bluffing. Isn't that weird? Like, how many times did the Biden administration think that Putin was bluffing? How many times did they look at Putin and they were just like, no, he's bluffing, he's bluffing, he's bluffing, he's bluffing, and he wasn't bluffing, right? Like, it's such a stupid way to govern. Yeah, we can just keep moving troops up to their border. Yeah, we can move an aircraft carrier into the Gulf of Iran. Like, we can do what we want. We can threaten them. We can bomb them. We can assassinate their leaders. We can steal their resources. They're just bluffing. They're just bluffing. They're just bluffing. They're just bluffing. Like, what a bunch of dumbasses. Freestyle writes, I wonder if an attempt at regime change in Cuba would spark some retaliation from other countries. No, unfortunately not. Like, the hard reality about Cuba is that it's not that important. That's the trouble. Excuse me. Man with the long last name. I don't think I've ever seen you here before, my man. Good to see you. You write, I don't get... Oh, excuse me, guys. 1 second. Sorry. I don't get why all the world's countries aren't taking the opportunity to simultaneously tariff bait the U.S. They're doing something way worse than that, my man. They're doing something way worse than that. What's happening on the global stage is that the United States is being institutionally isolated. Tariffs only really work if there's like international institutional structures to support them, right? That what's going on geopolitically is that the United States is being dropped from a lot of agreements, international agreements, and those countries are beginning to exclude America completely from international agreements. And so that's way worse than tariffs, right? That literally means the United States is no longer able to trade goods with places. Or that if there is an agreement to trade goods, America is being cut out of it. It's a huge problem. And like the biggest example of this is an organization that calls itself BRICS, which is a trade alliance that started in 2009 between Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, hence the name BRICS. And since its inception, like 100 more countries have joined it, including countries like Iran, Saudi Arabia, a lot of African nations joined. Because a lot of African nations and a lot of South American nations, a lot of nations see it as a way to circumvent and step around America. And what has accelerated this is Donald Trump's tariffs. That every single time Donald Trump tariffs someone, it basically incentivizes them to turn and take a look over at China or the BRICS organizations and be like, we could just make a deal with them. Right? And that's what America is doing geopolitically. It's just isolating itself. It's even isolating itself from its own allies and its own trading partners. And like, if you sanction everybody, baby, you're the isolated one, right? And if your whole strategy is I'm going to take my ball and go home, well, then they'll just find another ball, and you'll just be at home alone. So the American strategy, this tariffing strategy, is backfiring, and it's backfiring in a big way, big way, and it's not going to be too much longer now that it's going to get really obvious. Like, it's to people who are observers like myself, it's been obvious for a long time. And I mean, this Epstein thing has made it like really obvious, but the economic disparity is what's going to make it like crazy. I think people in 10 years, which in the grand scheme of things is a blink, in 10 years, people are just going to be blown the fuck away by the disparity. Like, I'm literally talking about, like, you're going to walk down your street that's broken apart. You're going to look at your buildings that are crumbling and falling apart. The windows will be boarded up and smashed out. There'll be tents and homeless people and tons of people doing the fentanyl thing and like leaned over. Everything will be dingy and dirty and shitty. The transit will be barely functioning. Healthcare, haha, there's no doctor near you. And this will be in major cities. You'll be walking around and it'll just be like a bombed out third world country. And then you'll take a look at your phone, because they'll still permit you to have access to this little shit box, and you'll flip through it, and Chinese state news will be like, today we open the moon base. And they'll show you pictures of a very beautiful looking, comfortable base on the moon. And no, I'm not being hyperbolic, and no, I'm not fucking joking. The disparity will be like that. It'll be wild. Freestyle writes, good point. The big reason Cuba is so attacked by the U.S. is because the U.S. still believes they have ownership rights to Cuba. Yeah, the U.S. believes it has ownership rights to the world. Jason Wakeman writes, don't underestimate China's role as a symbol of the Pan-Africa. Yeah, no, I think China has symbolic significance, certainly. But, like, so did Jesus, and they crucified him. Freestyle writes, Cuba definitely did a lot for Africa, yeah. Freestyle writes, cost of goods in the USA have been steadily going up at a weekly basis for a year now. Yeah. No. It'll be extraction. It'll be extraction followed by abandonment. Like, I just don't... Like, you guys are just not ready for it. Like, nobody's ready for it. Like, Walmart will leave. Amazon will leave. Like, your big, giant distributing centers will close their doors and leave. And you'll just be left with nothing. You'll be left alone. And, like, all the farmland around you will be owned by Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. And so if you want access to the food, good fucking luck. Like, good fucking luck. The climate crisis is visibly happening. There are still people who deny it. Yeah, they'll deny it right to the end. And then you just say China? Question mark? Did you have a question in regards to China? China thoughts? China? We could talk about China if you like. China's a beautiful place. I'm actually, when I have enough money, which might be at the end of this year, in fact, I might visit. We no longer need a visa to go visit China because of the deal that Carney made with them. So I might actually just go visit. Dave writes, John, the decline has already started here in Canada. It's going to be worse in 10 years. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. Freestyle skate, they already got rid of the penny. That's a sign of what's to come. People will run home from work before their paycheck becomes worthless. Have you seen what's going on in Argentina? 12-hour workdays, being paid in food, not money. The entire country is revolting. Yeah. Who knew that a political philosophy that can be defeated by playing a single game of Monopoly wouldn't work? Who knew that? Look, if we're going to talk about Argentina, dude, like, there's no reason to have like a big political philosophical discussion. Have ye mil a superhero suit? Yeah, I love this, man. Like, these guys are clowns, right? Like, they're always clowns. Just like, I've said it before, right? Like, if you're going to engage in electoral politics, vote for the guy with the boot on his head. Vote for the person who wears a trash can as a helmet. Like, stop voting for guys in suits. Because eventually they're all just going to look like this, right? Eventually they're just going to walk around wearing these stupid outfits and doing all kinds of dumb policy stunts anyway. And like, when your mainstream systems no longer have any credibility, then you might as well just go with your gut. And you might as well just be like, well, this guy at least says he wants to lower my rent. Like, that's what's so fucking wild about all this, is that, like, why is no one just standing up and saying, we're just going to lower your rent? Like, do you have any idea how easy it would be to take power? For anybody that actually had, like, a platform? Like, if you were the candidate for the NDP, if you were the head of the NDP, the New Democratic Party here in Canada, you would gain a lot of support very quickly just by saying, we're going to lower the rent. We're just going to lower the rent. Like, why is it that conservatives can walk around nakedly saying we're going to lower your taxes, but for some reason saying we're going to lower your rent is taboo? You know why? It's because they're all landlords. They're all fucking landlords. That's why. It's just disgraceful. Ugh. In so many ways, I am looking forward to it. Like, I'm looking forward to to all of this just hitting the wall, right? Like, it's going to be crazy to see. Because, like, the ruling class is not going to be able to control it. They're going to try, and they're going to fail. And that's what I'm really looking forward to. That there's going to just be forces that are unleashed that are beyond the comprehension or the understanding of the ruling class. Because the ruling class are hyper-individualists, they don't know what collective action looks like, and they can't know. And so when it starts to happen, they're not going to know what to do. And I don't mean like a communist party organizing and growing and I mean just like humans do things. Humanity goes forth. They're not going to have any idea what to do about it. Their only response is going to be violence, and that's only going to put them into a death spiral. And it's just going to be sound and fury. It's going to be crazy. Like, it's going to be crazy. Like, watch what happens when Gen Z turns 40, when they start to feel the creaking of their bones, when they see what's coming for them. Just wait for it, man. Like, it's going to be wild. Man with a long last name says, in the U.S., it's because the Democrats have found that they can just use threats to scare people into voting for them, so they only have to be accountable to donors. I mean, the Democrats and the Republicans are fundamentally allies. Like, they work together. If they have any differences, it's simply in... it's not philosophical. Like, it's where power lies. So, like, the power of the Democratic Party is corporate power, whereas the Republican Party is oligarchic power, right? So the power of the Republican Party is just like men like Donald Trump, just guys who have a lot of money and a lot of personal wealth and a lot of personal fortune, right? Whereas the Democrat power structure is a more formalized corporate power structure. But they fundamentally agree on how things should be ruled and how things should be governed. That they really are just two wings of the same fascist organization, of the same just kind of Nazi organization. And the only real difference that exists anymore between the Democrats and the Republicans is that the Democrats understand that they have to at least project an image of decency. Like, if you go back and watch, you don't even need to go back. Like, if you watch a lot of the clips, there are clips that continually circulate about Obama because people have a real hard-on for Obama because they don't pay any attention to what his policies were. A lot of the clips that circulate about Obama right now are just clips of him acting like a decent person. Like, one that I saw very recently was that he was giving a speech and there was a woman behind him who was pregnant, and she was starting to kind of like faint. She was getting that look on her face of just like, oh, I'm going to go. Right. But she's standing behind the president during a presidential address. Like, so she's trying to like keep it together. And somebody like points it out enough that Obama notices. And Obama stops his speech, turns, and is like, whoa, oh, and he like takes hold of the woman and they say, hey, and he waves somebody in and they like get her and like bring her off, and he's like, oh yeah, okay. And then he makes some kind of joke about it. It's like, oh, I know, I my speeches can be long, right? Like that kind of thing. And then everybody like applauds because they just saw like a moment of decency from their world leader, and Obama just sort of stands there and just kind of waits for it to happen, and then he continues with his speech, right? And it's this moment of just like, you know, basic decency. And it's circulating because people, I think, are hungry for basic decency. And that's what the Democrats are good at. They're good at pretending to be decent. Whereas the Republicans feel no need. And in fact, their base doesn't want them to be decent. Their base wants them to be cruel and vindictive. Their base wants them to try to be like, haha, and get them. Right? That's what their base wants. And so anytime they see cruelty, like when Donald Trump made fun of handicapped people, like literally hitting his chest and making like a kind of thing, people liked that, right? Because the cruelty was part of the point. And the American system, which is used to projecting an image of decency, was appalled by it. They were like, oh, this isn't decent. But it's the indecency that people wanted. And now people are beginning to kind of go back to like, can we have some decency in our politics? And that's what the Democrats are good at. The Democrats are good at feigning decency. They're good at pretending to be decent. And like Obama is a master of it. He's really good at pretending to be decent. And I think it's because Obama probably like considers himself a decent person. Right? It's just that he's willing to go along with policies that are obviously genocidal and psychopathic. Like he's willing to completely let the bankers that tanked the economic system off the hook completely. He's willing to erect a drone war. He's willing to assassinate American citizens. Right? Like Obama doesn't give a fuck. Jason Wakeman says, are we, and this serious question, are we the proletariat ready to lead when they fall? No. There's no serious leftist organization that will or can take power. That what we are witnessing now is the fall of an empire. So, like, and I've said it over and over again, right? Like, the American empire will fall. That's just written in the stars. If the American empire doesn't fall, it will literally be the first empire in human history to not do so. Like, that itself will be what would be special, right? So, like, I'm not telling tales out of school here. It's not a conspiracy theory or a weird idea. Like, this is what happens. This is humanity, baby. And when the American empire falls, the United States will begin to break apart. Like, that's the future. That's what's coming. That states will begin to secede from the Union. And they'll begin to secede from the Union along very obvious and very clear lines. Like, it's really clear what the trajectory will look like. That the billionaire class, like the baby-eating class, will eventually be asked to pay taxes, right? Because the empire requires roads. The empire requires funding. Like, there's going to come a point where the people who have hoovered up all of the wealth of the nation will be required to pay back in, and they'll pay back in, and they'll have to pay back in because there'll be nobody else who can. Asher Plays over on Twitch. Yeah, Palestinian flag. You look like Marx. Yeah. Okay. I'll take it. The billionaires will be required to pay back in, and they won't want to, right? Oh, they don't want oversight for their baby eating and child rape. Like, they don't want oversight on any of this. And so they'll fund independence movements. And they'll basically turn to the working class of the state, and they'll say, hey, do you guys want to stop paying federal taxes? You see how on your paycheck there's this line here that says federal taxes? What is that actually giving you? What do you actually get for that? And the average American citizen will be like, nothing, like dead corpses overseas and like a psychopathic Epstein file scandal. Like, that's what that's giving us. And so you'll have independence movements take root. And most American states already run at about 20-30% support for an independence movement. Wait until that's all the news talks about in Texas. Wait until that's all the news talks about in California, right? And so states will begin to secede, and there'll be like a general breaking apart. And I'm not saying that's going to happen tomorrow, but that's where we're going. And that's where America goes. That there's a 0% chance that the Union stays together. And to me, this is the fatal flaw of most analysis that people do of America. That most people, when they talk about America, are like, well, America's so safe, it's protected on both sides by an ocean. It's like, no. America kills itself internally. It falls apart internally. And the American federal government will eventually like preside over, 15 states. And that'll be the United States of America. And you'll start to, and some of those states, so to circle back around to your original question, Jason, some of those states will be taken over by workers. Like, workers will take them over. And whether they take them over through a revolution or through an electoral system, to be determined, but there will be workers that take over. It could be argued that like Minnesota is already one of those kinds of states, that workers have a great deal of power in Minnesota, which is why Minneapolis is like the lightning rod for ICE. But then there'll be states that are just strictly fascist. Like, it's really easy to see that Florida will be a fascist state. Just like ruled by Nazis, pretty explicitly. And it's pretty clear to see that those states will go to war with one another, right? Like, if you have one state on one side that are like workers' rights, equal rights, protections for everybody, and a state right beside it that's like, we like slavery and will enslave you, it's not tough to see that there'll be some kind of conflict. And that'll pretty much be the future of America for a long time. That you'll have pockets of proletariat power and pockets of fascist power, and there'll be resource wars, right? Especially as like climate change settles in. Like people are like, Americans are not going to go down easy, man. Like, it's not going to be it's not going to be rational, sane, clear-headed, sober negotiation. Like, it will be who has the biggest gun and who can fight the hardest. And the whole thing will just get really fracas, and there'll be no control. And like, the American military will essentially be used as a cudgel for corporate and oligarchic power to go in and just enslave populations and siphon stuff. And like, it's not going to be too much longer until populations will just be shoot on sight against organizations like ICE. Like, ICE will roll into your town and everybody will be like, arm up. The second you see ICE, shoot them. And it's not going to be too much longer. So the whole thing falls apart. So it's not going to be like a big leftist proletariat uprising that sweeps across America and takes everything over. It'll be America breaking apart, individual states, individual cities, just looking out for their own interests, protecting themselves, creating local militia groups. You'll have like a billionaire oligarch that takes over Austin, Texas. You'll have like Snailville, and you'll have billionaire pockets. Like, Rhode Island will be like Bill Gates' playground, or like, it'll be like that. And then you'll have like proletariat groups of people who've just organized themselves across like rural areas and in towns and cities across America, with this like old federal government that is essentially just going to be like an overmind, kind of like over top of it, exerting its will wherever it goes, because like, we have a document that we don't follow, throwing military wherever it wants to, and it'll operate at the behest of whatever oligarch is in charge of it at that moment. And that's the future of America, baby. For a while. Like, for a century, probably. And then, if history teaches us anything, eventually, like, it'll essentially turn into a warlord period. And eventually one warlord will sweep through and knock everybody over and kind of take over, and then America will turn into whatever that is. Right? Bruh, good to see you. Duke, I think Marx was significantly more greasy than you. I mean, I have access to like modern technology, so like, Marx didn't have running water. So Freestyle writes, you are already seeing it. Americans don't initially say they're from America. They say what state they're from. Yeah. More participation in the local politics as opposed to the federal elections too. Sure. Pookie writes, I don't believe America will fall. It will be overtaken. Like, we once thought Europe was the very center of the earth, and now they're stable and the global south is rising. Even USA, China, Japan all grew. Yeah, like, America will definitely be surpassed economically, for sure. And that's just, like, America is literally burning itself out. Like, the entire rest of the world is building. Right? They're building roads, they're building highways, they're building rail, they're building electrical grids, they're building power facilities, they're building advanced technologies, right? They're researching advanced technologies and they're enacting it. America's doubling down on coal. Like, and the whole thing is in decline. So yeah, they'll definitely be overtaken. They won't be militarily overtaken. And not because America has spent so much militarily. It is accurate to say that America has these gigantic borders in the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean, right? That and no country is going to want to get involved in America. Like, China's not going to want to send a platoon to America. Like, that's not going to happen. That the rest of the world is going to watch America collapse inward. And America's troubles will be its own doing. It'll all be internal. And maybe every so often you'll see, like, piracy. I think that will happen. Like, America will be trying to send a cargo ship somewhere and somebody will come and take it. Sure. But, like, landing troops on the mainland and trying to take anything from America on the mainland, forget about it. That's not going to happen. I will become communist dictator of Washington. New Jersey will sadly go fascist. Yeah, our state is letting ICE do whatever it wants. Man with a long last name says, I wish people would stop rewarding and making excuses for people who go into the military. I mean, that's essentially how, like, major empires fall, right? Like, if you take a look at the Roman Empire, a big reason why it falls is because people stop joining the military, right? You have, like, a rise of philosophical and religious organizations, among them Christianity, that essentially are like, yeah, stop joining the military, man. Like, stop getting involved in this. Don't participate. And generation by generation, people get convinced of that. And you are seeing it. Like, America keeps missing its targets for recruitment. It keeps missing its targets for recruitment. Less and less people are willing to join the military, right? So, and what they've had to do in order to get, like, ICE recruited, for example, to get ICE agents, like, there's no requirements. Like, if you're capable of driving a car, you can be an ICE agent, because they don't really need you to be competent. That's a big problem that the military actually has, is that they actually do need a certain degree of competence. They require less competence to deal with domestic forces. No, I mean, one of the big, if you ask me, the biggest change that has happened in regards to America's ability to interact with the rest of the world is that America used to have plausible deniability, or there was a sense of disbelief. Like, the CIA, since its inception, has been focused on overthrowing governments and installing Western-favored governments. And it's been doing that since the beginning. And it's been doing it successfully. Right? There was a big conversation within the CIA that, like, is this possible? Can we do this? Can we actually overthrow a country and put somebody in there who is favorable to us and have that work? And the answer is yes. That you can use the secret services in order to do that kind of thing. And for decades, people didn't believe it. Not only did people not believe it domestically, right? We're all familiar with, oh, what are you, a conspiracy theorist? Look at this guy. He thinks the CIA was involved. Ho, 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 right? And that was that way for decades and decades and decades. Up until, like, probably 2005, people still thought that way, right? Up until, like, 2008, people still thought that way. And it's only a kind of a recent phenomenon that domestic people are like, no, the CIA, right? And, like, very recently, it's like, okay, the CIA is involved, here's how. And if you don't think the CIA is involved, then you're stupid, right? You got to be like dead brain in the head if you don't think the CIA is involved at this point. But that wasn't the case for a long period of time. And that's true not only domestically, but also internationally, right? That internationally, people didn't really understand that the CIA existed, what its plans were, how it operated, and that it was a threat in the first place. And so that means the CIA can operate effectively because nobody sees them coming. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody understands that this threat exists in any serious capacity. And so you're vulnerable to it. Well, that's no longer true. And even more than that, if you did think that the CIA was a threat, if you were aware of who the CIA was, you didn't really realize the lengths they were willing to go. Right? And so there was a limit to the imaginative capacity of people outside the United States for the lengths America was willing to go and the lengths the CIA were willing to go in order to achieve their objectives. Well, that's done. Like, that's done. And I think that ended with Gaddafi. I think Gaddafi was the sort of the final moment when everybody in the world was like, the CIA will fuck you up. You want power? Where's the CIA? Who's the CIA? Who's the CIA operative? Who's been talking to people? Hey, you went into that building. Was the CIA there with you? Oh, he's just paranoid. Yeah, he's paranoid. We've seen what the CIA can do. We've seen what they're willing to do. And to me, that's the big shift in international politics. And in America's ability to influence the world, is that now nobody perceives America as a good faith actor, and everybody is aware that the CIA exists, and there's a general awareness that America is trying to overthrow your government through the CIA. And it's that awareness, I think, that's really changed things. Like, you take a look at somebody like Fidel Castro. Like, here's a guy who was aware, right? At no point was Fidel Castro like, they won't come in here and do that. Yes, they will. Yes, they fucking will. And Fidel Castro, by all accounts, was always aware of it. He always knew. He always knew. They send a CIA agent over and he was like, you're CIA. Right? And he'd like call people out on it. Like, he knew. They weren't dumb about it. You compare that to somebody like Allende, for example, right? Chile. Chile gets overthrown. And as it's happening, Allende is like, where's Pinochet? Oh, poor Pinochet. Oh, he's probably in trouble. Like, Pinochet's the guy that's overthrowing your fucking government, bro. So there's just like a lack of awareness that's no longer there. And it's that awareness, I think, that's really changed things. And believe it or not, like, there was a period of time when people were like, oh, thank goodness the Americans are coming. Nobody thinks that anymore. People are like, oh, the Americans are involved? Oh, we're in real trouble. Allende, you're right. You're right. Yeah. They're recruiting ICE from those vigilante neo-Nazi groups who also take such pleasure in that role. Yeah, hey, have you guys noticed? Where are the Proud Boys? You don't hear much from them anymore. Where are these guys? Gaddafi's story is so heartbreaking. They murdered his daughter, and he learned then what he was against. Yeah, I just, like, you can see it on his face when he's killed. When they shove the sword into him. You see it on his face. He's just like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, you better believe it. You better fucking believe it. Like, they will do that shit. Don't fucking think that you're immune somehow or that it won't happen. It fucking will. The CIA is not fucking around. These guys are neo-Nazis. Man with the long last name says, I always found the willingness to immediately dismiss conspiracy theories to be really weird. even before the file release. It's not like people were completely unreasonable for doubting the government. Yeah, Michael Parenti had something interesting to say about that. Even back in like the 70s. He'd be like, if a group of workers get together and create a union, right, and organize for their own self-interests, everybody understands that, right? If a group of like-minded neighbors get together and create like a neighborhood watch in order to protect themselves from external threats, everybody understands that. But the moment you start talking about rich capitalists getting together and talking about their own interests, it's like some kind of conspiracy theory. Like people will say to you, like, you don't think these guys actually sit down in a room and discuss these things, do you, Michael? And he says, well, how else? Where else would they? Rest in peace, Michael Parenti. Black Shirts and Reds, if you've never read it. All right, guys, we've reached the end of this one. 3 hours is long enough. Always remember, guys, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you'll never realize it, and you'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.